Hey now, 580 Sports Talk going up on a Tuesday. Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucero here with you. 3 hours of 580 Sports Talk from now until 6 when we take you into Royals baseball. And the Kansas City Royals are now winners of 2 games in a row. And they were on the right side of a blowout yesterday, a 12-5 win over the Chicago White Sox. They got to Dylan Cease. And it wasn't only Dylan Cease who gave up plenty of runs and hits in yesterday's game. We'll talk all about that for the Kansas City Royals, how good it felt to let out a little frustration with a game like that. Didn't even need a great outing from Zach Greinke. You just needed, lips barely above the water, and that was enough to pick up a big-time win over the White Sox yesterday. So we'll talk about that. We will look ahead to tonight's game as well, game 2 of the series between the Royals and the White Sox, 6:40 first pitch, 6 o'clock pregame on the Royals Radio Network here on 580 WIBW. We will lead you into that coming up today. Also in this opening hour of the show, we'll play Random Question Tuesday. And speaking of the Royals, Jim Bowden at The Athletic, former Major League Baseball general manager, put together a list of teams and players to keep an eye on as we get into the summer months that could be trade deadline candidates. Teams that might be selling, players that might be sold off. And he's got 2 Royals on the list. One of them is a no-brainer. The other one, you might be a little bit surprised to hear. We'll get to that later on in this 3 o'clock hour. Also coming up today on the program, is there any reason to feel like there's some sort of animosity between the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes? Because number one, you-know-what stirrer and complete dunce, Mike Florio, seems to believe so. But we will get into what is next financially for the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. I feel like any sort of drama about this is totally manufactured, right? Like, nothing has ever given us a reason to think that there's bad blood between the two sides.
No.
He got $500 million not that long ago. Like I think it'll get restructured or, he'll get a raise, he'll get extended, whatever. But Florio's out here like, I don't know. He also made some... We'll get to this at 4 o'clock. I'm going to get worked up about this. We'll get to what was written about Patrick Mahomes and his next contract coming up at 4 o'clock today. Michael Swain is going to stop by for Jayhawk Weekly on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline, bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. We've got our 580 Sports Talk headlines, including today's playoff roundup. We've got today's What Is Wrong With You, brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. All that and more coming up over the next 3 hours on 580 Sports Talk. Text line number 785-272-9429. Text in with your thoughts on anything we're talking about today. Or you can hop into the comment section on YouTube. The name of our channel is Sports on 580 WIBW. And we should note that throughout the show today, you heard a little bit from our pal Britt Zweigert at the top of the hour after our local news. There is some severe weather in the area approaching the capital city. I know out in Abilene, they got trounced pretty badly by this storm a little bit earlier today. Hopefully everyone is all right out there. You heard the warnings earlier from Jennifer Naramore as well. Hail, rain, wind, possible circulation, all of that. We will keep you updated on any watches and warnings throughout the day. If things do seem a little more imminent, a little more severe, Britt's going to hop on in and he will take care of things. But we will keep you updated on that throughout the show today. One-time star meteorologist Dan Lucero will be all over the weather desk this afternoon.
I do have a little experience.
So we will get to all that and, of course, all the sports coming up today on 580 Sports Talk. But we start today with a blowout win for the Kansas City Royals. 12-5, they thump the White Sox. They put up an 8 spot in the 6th inning. It wasn't your typical Dylan Cease start last night for the Sox.
In that he was bad?
Yeah, in that he kind of stunk. And it wasn't, made one bad pitch or one momentary thing happened. There you go. Weather going to be on alert all day. He gave up 1 in the 1st. He gave up 2 in the 4th. He gave up another in the 5th. Already 4 runs through 5 innings. You usually expect Dylan Cease probably not going to give up that many. He ends up getting tagged for 7 of them over the course of the game. You didn't need a whole lot from Zach Greinke, and he wasn't great. He was fine. 3 earned, 4 total runs, 5 2/3. Only walked 1, only struck out 2. He pretty much did late stage Zach Greinke things. But the bullpen was very good again. Quas ended up getting the win with 1/3 of an inning.
2 pitches.
2 pitches. Yeah, that tells you all you need to know about wins and losses.
Such as that Greinke thing to have happen, right? Like He finally gets some run support, and he's 2 pitches shy of earning the win.
Then you had Amir Garrett, who only comes in for a third of an inning, and Max Castillo, the potato. Is that what it is? The potato?
La Papa.
La Papa, yeah. Getting some work. Has not had a great year in the minors so far, but good to see him get some work. Gave up a run in 2 2/3. Bullpen was just fine. And it was more of the same that we've seen lately from this mostly young offense, that they are putting the bat on the ball. They're continuing to hit it hard, but those hard hits that were outs for so long are now finding a little more traction. They are being blasted into the seats if you are MJ Melendez. They are turning into extra base hits. Like, even for guys such as Jackie Bradley Jr., who had 2 doubles and 3 hits for the game. A big reason why I'm not going to pick the Royals to win tonight, but that's a different story for later on in the show. You got everybody except Maikel Garcia from the starting lineup into the action last night. 5 dudes end up with multiple hits for the game against a really good pitcher who is struggling a little bit this season, given his repertoire up until this point. But that's a good win for the Royals. It really did feel like a game in which they let off some frustration. Like, that 6th inning really felt like, you're in a rhythm on the heavy bag and you're just throwing incredible haymakers at it. That's kind of what that felt like for the Royals yesterday. And I'm sure for those guys, it felt good to have the run production and those hits actually end up resulting in a win.
Kind of cathartic, I guess, would be the word that I would use. And it is. It's good to see that it's the young guys who are making some adjustments. Like, you never get to the major leagues as a finished product. And when you're talking about guys you want to see contribute to big games like this, yeah, it's one thing. Jackie Bradley Jr. gets 3 hits and 2 ribs from the bottom of the order. That's great. But you like to see 4 RBI for MJ Melendez and a very long home run off of a very good pitcher. Nick Pratto with 2 hits and 3 runs driven, another extra base hit for Pratto, who notably did not strike out last night and drew a walk, a couple of things that he has not done a whole ton of. His batting average on balls in play is still well in excess of 500. So there's an element of really good batted ball fortune to his 938 OPS since being called up. But at the same time, you know what leads to a high batting average on balls in play? Hitting the ball hard in the air to the alleys. Like, that's a good plan for Nick Pratto. And a lot of the damage he's done has been on line drives, hard hit balls. So that's been encouraging to see from Pratto. I mentioned Melendez, 2-hit night for Bobby Witt Jr., 2-hit night for Vinny Pasquantino. True team effort. And that is what made last night so satisfying, was the fact that it was total contribution up and down the order. Even Michael Massey driving in a run, starting to look a lot more comfortable at the plate, not hitting for any real power, but certainly has come a long way since his miserable start to the season, and the Royals' patience in him is starting to be rewarded. It was such a good night, in fact, that we are able to skip over the too on the nose metaphor of a Royals pitcher literally throwing up on the mound last night.
Yeah. Do we know what was going on with Amir Garrett? Is he just not feeling well?
I don't know. He got one guy out, and that was all his stomach could handle. It was a big night for puke in sports last night. Gary Payton II, vomited in his mouth and had to, hold it in for a possession.
Oh, ew, I didn't see that.
Did you not see that?
No.
Yeah, that was a thing. Big night for puke.
Was that late in the game?
No, it was early in the game.
I must have been paying attention to something else.
Big night for puke. Big night for sports puke.
Who's back of the week? Vomit.
Vomit. Big night for vomit.
Yeah, that was a lot of puke, by the way, from Amir Garrett. Like, that made the rounds all over Twitter last night, including numerous people I know who tweeted, when you have to watch a full White Sox game, and then that picture.
No, I didn't even make the obvious joke about a Royals pitcher yakking on the mound, because it didn't matter, because they were up by 8 runs at the time.
Yeah, I think the part about it being a team effort is really, I would agree with you, is what stands out about it, that you got the ensemble cast to be a part of it. Again, it's encouraging to see at least some good work from the pitching staff overall. I want to ask you a specific question about MJ Melendez. This was approached by Craig Brown over at Into the Fountains, friend of the program.
Mm-hmm.
What do you make of MJ Melendez as an outfielder right now?
Work in progress.
Promising signs?
He's a good enough athlete that I think he can make it work.
Okay.
Like, unlike, I don't think Nick Prado's a bad athlete. I don't think that, like, Edward Olivares, like, I don't have any room to sit behind a microphone and say, that guy's not athletic. But it's all relative, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think MJ Melendez has above average athleticism. And him being a coach's kid, his dad, longtime college baseball head coach, I think he's got understanding of the game and a baseball IQ that will, I think, give him a better chance to pick up a position switch like that than most guys would have. There are certainly some balls that get away from him that maybe shouldn't, that don't look good. There are certainly some plays that a better right field, like, we're a long way from when the Royals had the luxury of being able to shift Lorenzo Cain, Gold Glove caliber defensive center fielder, to right field in the late innings because they could bring Gerard Dyson off the bench. And then their left fielder was a 7-time Gold Glover. Like, we're a ways away from that, obviously. Right. But Melendez, to me, is the most promising of the conversion candidates that the Royals have out there right now. When they play Prado out there, when they've run Dozier, or they've talked about playing Michael Garcia in center field, which they haven't done that yet. Thankfully, I hope they don't have to. Edward Olivares.
I would also like to avoid that, for the record.
Edward Olivares is out there because, again, without that, he's got no position, and I've made my thoughts very clear, and I think it's very obvious just watching him play he's just not a great outfielder. Not everybody can be Alex Gordon. Not everybody can be Lorenzo Cain. I do, though, think it is noteworthy that Melendez's bat has started to come along at right around the same time that the Royals have simplified things for him as a defensive player and said, don't worry about these pitcher meetings. Don't worry about how many times a week you're going to catch. You're going to play the outfield or you're going to DH. That's going to be your gig. Freddie Fermin's the backup catcher now. He's going to back up Salvi. You're going to go out to right field and play. And like I said, I don't think that's coincidental that with that part of the game, that aspect of the game simplified for him, that he's been able to focus maybe a little more on making the tweaks he's needed to make at the plate to make some more consistent contact. Because the contact was always hard contact. It was just not enough of it. Now, last handful of games, he's starting to make more consistent contact, and that ball jumping off his bat has resulted in the outcomes you would expect when you hit the ball hard, and with the launch angle that MJ Melendez typically hits the ball, you're seeing the extra base hits, you're seeing the home runs.
I wanted to take a look at one stat that I've been keeping my eye on a lot over the course, really, of the last few seasons. If you had to take a guess how well the Royals are hitting with runners in scoring position, and I'll give you the last, what would this be? 7 games. Guess the batting average with runners in scoring position since the start of the Orioles series.
Batting average, runners in scoring position. So this would be the homestand, essentially, for the homestand. Yeah. The 7 games so far. Probably over 300.
307. And that includes back-to-back games against the A's in which they went a combined 4 of 24. So you take that out, and, I mean, they're hitting way above 300.
Yeah.
So
last night probably jumped that average up quite a bit.
It did help last night that they went 6 of 14. That definitely does help in that regard. But that's something they have improved on. Situational hitting. I think it's fair and easy to say, they still stink. They're still, so many losses and all this pitching is still so bad. But you have to take the wins where you can get them when it comes to evaluating what you have for the future. And we know what the core is going to be, but it is, I think, a positive and reflects well on the players and on the coaching that in terms of situational batting, the Royals are in a good place right now. Small sample, 7 games. That's not a whole lot. Another matchup tonight against Lucas Giolito, who's having a little bit of a bounce back this year. Tough matchup, obviously. Guy throws 100 miles an hour. But
who loves facing him? Salvador Perez.
Yes, he does. Well, I mean, You just sit fastball, and is there anyone better at sitting fastball than Salvi?
Sal can hit a fastball. He roll out of bed at 2 a.m, turn on a fastball.
I saw some Salvador Perez discourse on Twitter today. I need to pull this up because I saw it was mostly positive. It was mostly Royals fans making fun of the still persistent narratives about Salvador Perez and his ability as a catcher. That he's top 5 in pretty much every single offensive category among catchers. He's first in hits, second in home runs, third in both average and RBIs, and fourth in OPS among all catchers in baseball. Qualified catchers in baseball. That's pretty good. It sort of felt like we weren't talking a whole lot of Salvi, and it kind of felt like he got off to that slow start.
It was a slow start. He's been nuclear hot now. The OPS is up to 855, second best on the team for qualified hitters behind Vinny. The 7 dingers and the 20 RBIs leads the Royals. Yeah, it's been nice to have that, consistent middle of the order presence to lift the rest of the lineup. And now that, Bobby Witt Jr.'s had a pretty good last week or so, I think he's hit safely in every game in May. Melendez coming along. Those are the guys typically hitting in front of him along with Pasquantino. Yeah, not surprised that the RBI opportunities are starting to tick up, and Sal, with the weather warming up, is making the most of it. It's an old baseball cliche. It's one of my favorite ones because it's so silly sounding on its face. Yeah, guys warm up with the weather. But now I think like a 33-year-old catcher with some, a lot of tread on the tires probably does warm up a little bit with the weather.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that. Right now, 7 home runs through 33 games played. Royals have played 36 overall. Salvi's on pace for 31 home runs again. I know it's just playing the on-pace game, not even a quarter of the way through the season, but that's pacing for another 30 home run season, which would be the second of his career. You may remember the other one when he got MVP votes and led the majors in home runs and RBI.
If he does it again, and I don't know, this feels like a discussion for much more time and maybe another day, but Salvador Perez doing this in his early 30s is going to put him into a very interesting place when it comes time to discussing his credentials for Cooperstown someday. That's what we're talking about. Another 30 dinger season for Sal at 33. Let's say he has let's say his power ages gracefully as he gets into his mid 30s. You look at the Gold Gloves and the All-Star game appearances he's stacked up. There's going to be a case. He's got a ring.
It would be up to this point. He's won 4 Silver Sluggers. He has, how many Gold Gloves is it now? 4, 5?
5 Gold Gloves.
5 Gold Gloves.
5 Gold Gloves, 7 All-Star games. He's World Series MVP. I don't think it's out of the question.
I would go further than that. I think it would be dumb to not put him in. I get that his on-base percentage is bad, and I get that is important in baseball, always has been, but is more focused on now. I get that. But look at the credentials. Look at the accomplishments.
WAR and Jaws don't love him. Jaws is Jay Jaffe, who's been on the program in the past. That's kind of his metric that he put together to kind of weight players across eras against each other and build a Hall of Fame case. Those aren't particularly kind to Salvador Perez, but a lot of the intangible stuff that sees players make their way to Cooperstown, it's starting to add to that. 1 or 2 more really good years at the dish, and you're talking about a guy who will have been an above-average offensive contributor. He's at 230 career home runs. If he gets to 300 home runs, do you think he's got 70 more big flies in him? I think he does.
Oh, probably, especially if he transitions away from catching more.
And I think there's a lot of baseball left for Sal. His best offensive seasons have all been in his 30s.
Yeah. By the way, speaking of Salvador Perez, you know what tomorrow is?
Is it his birthday?
It is his 33rd birthday.
How about that?
Let's get to our first break here.
Real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
Before we get to the break, let's pass along that severe thunderstorm information that came across there during the segment. The current severe thunderstorm warning is for northeastern Riley County, eastern Morris County, western Shawnee County, Wabunsee County, northwestern Osage County, central Pottawatomie County, and Lyon County. And that is until 4 p.m. Central Time. That includes Emporia, Wamego, Osage City, Council Grove, Carbondale, Rossville, Alma, Westmoreland, Eskridge, St. Mary's, Dover, Auburn, Burlingame, Americus, Scranton, St. George, Maple Hill, Alta Vista, McFarland, and Harveyville, including I-70 between mile markers 323 and 352, the Kansas Turnpike between mile markers 117 and 173, and Interstate 35 between mile markers 128 and 137. Hazards with this storm include 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts and quarter-size hail. Hail damage to vehicles is expected. Expect wind damage to roofs, siding, and trees. So again, it's northeastern Riley County, eastern Morris County, western Shawnee County, Wabunsee County, northwestern Osage County, central Pottawatomie County, and Lyon County, all in a severe thunderstorm warning until 4 p.m. And we'll keep you posted if any of those details change.
Yep, we will keep you up to date on that throughout the show. Right now, we've got to get to our first break. When we come back, we'll play Random Question Tuesday here on 580 Sports Talk.
If you have ever thought about remodeling your bathroom, but
We're just getting started on this Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Brendan and Dan here with you. Random Question Tuesday time. Want to build off of what the guys were talking about on Mic'd Up today. They had their Everyone Loves the List segment, and they did favorite teachers. It is National Teacher Day.
Yes,
today.
It is.
You obviously come from a family with educators in it.
Yes, my mom has worked in public schools since the late 90s, actually retiring this year.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah.
Congratulations to her. That's awesome. So not just who was your favorite teacher or teachers, but why?
Well, my wife, obviously, is my favorite current active teacher.
Yes.
My wife's a first grade teacher, and I think she's the best. And I think that any kid who's ever had her has been very lucky. Anyway, favorite teacher that I myself have ever had. I've been fortunate. I've had a lot that I have really, really liked. I had some history professors or history teachers in high school. Miss Winoski taught U.S. history. Mr. Humphreys taught world history. And both of them had such a great passion for it that some of that rubbed off on me. And that's what I ended up majoring in college.
Mm-hmm.
So for high school, definitely them. And my chemistry teacher, Mr. Hurl, who's also one of my baseball coaches, enjoyed him. He was a good guy. In college, I was in an honors media program, and one of the professors in the media program, his full name was Jonathan Nichols Pethick, but everybody just called him JNP because that's kind of a mouthful.
Yeah.
So we just went JNP, and JNP was cool. I loved his classes. He was very knowledgeable. He was very laid back. And he not only let me skip class to watch the Rockies when they were in the playoffs in 2007, he let me do that despite the fact that the Rockies had beaten his beloved San Diego Padres to get there, and was cool with it and didn't flunk me or anything like that. So JNP was my favorite in college for sure.
That's pretty cool.
Those are three. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a pretty easy list of four for me. One was my radio teacher in high school, which put me on a path to where I am now, who I still talk to quite a bit. My favorite journalism professor at KU, Lisa McClendon, she was the absolute best. Taught me a whole lot, really. Anyone who is passionate about it, but also like is willing to have conversations about things that aren't whatever they're teaching, I always gravitated toward. By the way, my English teacher, both my 7th and 8th grade years, I ended up having her 2 years in a row. Ms. Tabbitt, Veronica Tabbitt, she was the absolute best. Was there for me, kind of went through some stuff at home at the time, and she was always there, always willing to talk, really smart. And even when I really was not interested in doing school, she helped me get through 7th and 8th grade. So no, Ms. Tabbitt was the best.
Very cool. And yes, a big thank you to all the teachers out there for what you do, and for the sacrifices that you make. That now I understand a lot better now, being married to one, than I did before. So thank you to all of the teachers out there.
Pay teachers better.
Yes, pay them what they are owed. Pay them what they deserve. Random question for me, since we are currently in a severe thunderstorm watch, and there has been some severe thunderstorm warnings that we have passed along. What is the wildest weather event that you personally experienced?
Wildest weather event I've personally experienced.
Whether it was a freak snowstorm, rainstorm, tornado nearby, just one that stands out.
I guess there's two. However many years ago it was it 2019 we had the big tornado?
Through Lawrence. Yeah, that was 2019.
I live not
like just south of Lawrence.
Just south of Lawrence. Went through Linwood, which is Baser Linwood, and Linwood's tiny. I've actually got a really good friend whose family lives there, and they ended up with like the side of a barn on their property, not their own barn. It really devastated that area. But I remember I didn't have a first floor living space at the time, so I just huddled in my bathtub. It was like, well, I hope this doesn't knock my building down, because uh-oh. But yeah, no, that was pretty freaky. I did not feel very good then. And then the other one that comes to mind is the 2011, I believe it was 2011, Groundhog's Day blizzard in Chicago. 22 inches of snow.
Wow.
Actually got school canceled. School never got canceled for snow when I was a kid. It was like an infamous thing in our district. Like, we do not cancel for weather. It just does not happen. And then we got 22 inches of snow, and they said, okay, fine, no school on Monday or on Tuesday or whatever. That was crazy. There were just walls of it everywhere. It was unbelievable.
The big snowstorm that I remember like that would have been my senior year of high school. It was in March. The Denver area got like 2 to 3 feet, and wiped out school for 4 days. So the snow started falling on a Monday into Tuesday, and Tuesday through Friday we did not go to school. And it was a week before spring break. So It was also the week of the first weekend of the NCAA tournament. So It was probably the best time ever to have a snow week, essentially. We have 4 days straight off from school. Incredible snowstorm. Did affect the baseball season a little bit, but
yeah, I believe that.
But I remember that one, and then the first month I moved to Kansas in 2013, and I've lived here off and on since then. I moved to Kansas in Wichita. And I was living in Wichita, and there was a big storm that came through Wichita, and I don't remember it being particularly harmful. I think there might have been a tornado touchdown in a like outside of a rural area, so there wasn't any there wasn't significant damage done or anything like that. But I do remember the TV people. I think it was Cake in Wichita. Just go off the air. Yeah, you look at the map, but we're going to go and shelter because this thing looks like it's coming right at us. Yeah. And I was looking at the map wow, well, if it's coming at them, it's coming at me. And I didn't know what to do. So I did the bathtub thing, except I was on the first level. There was my apartment complex, there was a garden level and a first level. And I was up against the side of the building in my bathtub. This is going to do anything if the big one comes through. Thankfully it did not, but that was my first experience with Kansas severe weather.
I remember as a kid once, I was actually on a Cub Scout outing one night, and there was a gigantic tornado in one of the suburbs. It was fairly distant suburbs, but I remember the sirens going off, and oh boy, this is I do not like storms, and I do not like tornadoes and things like that. I know that's very anti-Kansas, but that's not for me. They make me uncomfortable. So
we're not really Tornado Alley anymore. Tornado Alley has kind of shifted over the years. It's
south and east.
Yeah, it's south and east now. It's not we're in no danger, but the tornado danger now is much more significant in those parts of America than it used to be, and a little less so here than it used to be.
The first big one that I remember being dang, I didn't know tornadoes happened there was the Tuscaloosa one.
Yeah.
I don't remember what year that was, 2011 maybe, 2010.
It feels like a decade or more.
I have a book about that, about the Auburn and Alabama communities coming together to help the needy in Tuscaloosa when that happened.
Speaking of, we have some updated information on some severe weather that we'll go ahead and pass along to you. At 3:28 p.m. Central Time, severe thunderstorms were located along a line extending 6 miles northwest of Emmett to near Auburn to 5 miles east of Cottonwood Falls, moving east at 35 miles per hour. Radar indicating that there are 60 mile an hour wind gusts and quarter-size hail. Again, the locations impacted include Emporia, Wamego, Osage City, Council Grove, Carbondale, Rossville, Alma, Eskridge, St. Mary's, Dover, Auburn, Burlingame, Americus, Scranton, St. George, Maple Hill, Alta Vista, McFarland, Harveyville, and Reading. This includes following highways: I-70 between mile markers 323 and 352, Kansas Turnpike between mile markers 117 and 173, and Interstate 35 between mile markers 128 and 137. This severe thunderstorm warning is in effect until 4 p.m. For your protection, if you're in these areas, move to an interior room on the lowest floor of a building.
Let's take another time out. When we come back on the other side of this break, Jim Bowden at The Athletic had a list of players and teams to watch when it comes to selling at the trade deadline, and a little more Royals population on those lists than I was expecting. We'll explain next on 580 Sports Talk.
I'm Jim Chesko with your money.
580 Sports Talk rolling on this Tuesday afternoon. Speaking of living through wild weather circumstances, my parents lived through the biggest blizzard in Chicago history, 23 inches in, I think it was 67. I think it was 1967. There are pictures of that blizzard, and technology and how they cleared it was different then than it is now, or even was 12 years ago. But you can see Lakeshore Drive in Chicago completely shut down and cars abandoned for days, just completely dead to the world. It was incredible. And I don't ever want to live through that much snow ever again. I like snow. I do not need nearly 2 full feet of snow, however. I wanted to get to this from Major League Baseball and Jim Bowden, former general manager in Major League Baseball. And he put together a list of teams to watch who might be selling at the trade deadline as summer rolls around, and also players to keep an eye on who he says, quote, I think have a strong chance of getting dealt this spring or summer, but also wants to add, this is by no means an exhaustive list. It is honestly written like his editors at The Athletic said, Jim, you haven't written anything in a month. We need you to post content. And he just threw something out there. The teams, he says, to watch. The St. Louis Cardinals are up there. Well, they're not very good, although they beat the Cubs last night. The White Sox, they're not very good. They got smacked by the Royals last night. And then you've got the San Francisco Giants as well, who are on this list. I'm going to be honest with you. I've not paid a lick of attention to the Giants this year. Not even one iota. I don't think I've seen a single Giants score all year.
They are 15 and 19. They don't have great vibes. The guys they signed this offseason to try and add some thump to their outfield, Mitch Haniger and Michael Conforto, haven't hit a lick. They are running out dudes I've never heard of, and I follow that division pretty closely. They got dudes like Blake Sable and Brett Wisely that I've never heard of. Those are fake names to me.
Sable hit a walk-off home run this year.
Yeah, he did.
I remember that because I was watching SportsCenter that night, and they were, oh, man, Blake Sable, the rookie with the big hit. I thought, dang, is he a big deal? I have not heard of him. And then he hit a home run, and I heard of him then. That's all I know about him, though.
They've got a very 2019 Royals vibe in their bullpen with Scott Alexander and Jacob Junis.
Wow. So Junis is a reliever now?
Yes.
Okay.
Strictly. 8 appearances, 19 in the 30s, a long reliever, 5.12 ERA. Scott Alexander, 14 appearances, 11 and a third, 6.35 ERA. This has been Talking Giants.
Remember when Scott Alexander should have netted the Royals a ton more than they actually got for him?
They had to throw him into the Joaquin Soria deal to get anything.
Yeah.
And they got like Trevor Oakes and
love Dayton Moore. What a great general manager he was. All right, here's your list of players Jim Bowden points out as guys he believes are going to get traded. Number 1 is tonight's White Sox starting pitcher, Lucas Giolito. There's actually a lot of AL Central on this list. A lot. Lucas Giolito is number 1, having a little bit of a bounce back this year. He is an impending free agent. Number 2 is Eduardo Rodriguez, a lefty for the Tigers, who has been pretty good so far this year. Number 3, this Royal makes a lot of sense. Aroldis Chapman. That's the reason he was signed.
Yes.
Was so that the Royals could then flip him at the deadline for something. Number 4, Jock Peterson of the Giants. Maybe he can play for every team in Major League Baseball. I think that'd be cool. Just play 3 months for every single team.
Be the left-handed platoon DH and curator of vibes for whatever team picks him up.
I don't know that you'll like to hear this next one because your team has actually been playing pretty well recently. CJ Cron.
No, that's fine. We got dudes to pick up first base and DH ABs like that.
All right.
Are going to be more likely to be part of a good Rockies team than CJ Cron. Also, his got a sub 300 OBP right now, so
that's not especially good. He will be a free agent after this.
Yes. We'll probably sign him to a 2-year extension instead.
Love the Montforts. Always have.
Bill Schmidt, best in the game, baby.
From the Nationals, number 6, first baseman / designated hitter. You're going to have to help me with this one. Joey Meneses?
Yes.
Joey, the Battle of Meneses. If I was Boomer. If I was Chris Berman. Thank you.
All right.
Here's where things get real weird. Number 7, Brad Keller. Who is trading for Brad Keller right now? Who? What team in Major League Baseball saw him this weekend and said, yes, that is what we need to make a playoff push?
You got to be careful not to just scout the box score, right?
Right.
You don't want to just look at a stat line and say that's what the player is. At the same time, if the stat line says that you lead the American League in walks and you're walking 7 batters per 9 innings as a starting pitcher, like that's radioactive waste.
Yeah, it's not great.
Like, and his command has never been great. It's never been this bad, but I don't know. Like I'm not even sure what the Royals see in Keller at this point. Like they moved him to the bullpen last year. Obviously this year kind of feels like his last chance to stick in the rotation. And so far, not real great. He's not signed beyond this year. He can be a free agent after this season. I believe this is his
correct.
Yeah, it's final arbitration year. So he's a free agent after this season. Yeah, I just unless he stops walking so many guys.
Yeah.
I don't know. That feels like a space filler to me because when you look at his ratios and things like that, like he's getting more ground balls than he ever has. That's pretty good. He has added a new pitch.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's a team watching that and thinking, hey, we can get something better out of him. Just the body and the raw stuff. Maybe he's worth a flyer if we're dying for a guy who could take the ball every 5 days. But you're not exactly selling high if you're the Royals on Brad Keller right now.
No, not even remotely. He's got more walks this season than he did in the COVID year total. He walked 17 batters that year. That was his best season. He's walked 28 so far this year.
COVID year Brad Keller was a problem.
Yeah, he was. That's 20 fewer innings, 11 more walks. Last year, 57 walks total for the entire year. He's already at almost half that at 28 for the season. I just don't know what are you getting for Brad Keller? Like, I just don't get that one. That one shocked me when I saw this. We were looking for, some Royals to talk today, and I was going through The Athletic, and I thought, oh, okay, well, maybe I'm sure Chapman's on this list. And indeed, that was the case. We'll get you a weather update here in just a second. So, yeah, that was bizarre. By the way, the 8th player on this list, also from the AL Central, Javier Baez. Again, I will ask you the same question. Who is trading for him?
Never mind, like the contract, which alone makes it pretty onerous to try and trade for him. He hasn't really hit in. I guess he was okay in 2021. He had 31 dingers that year, but like he had the year where everybody thought he should have been the MVP in 2018. He was runner up.
Yeah,
for National League MVP.
Yeah, it was really good that year.
Yeah, and then he was like okay the year after that, pretty much the same player, and miserable in the COVID year. Just kind of whatever in 2021 when the Cubs traded him. And then, with the Tigers, he's been a below average hitter since they signed him. With the strikes out all the time.
Yeah, a below average OPS plus of 93. His OPS is 675. That's not very good. He strikes out a ton. Led the majors in strikeouts in that final year, splitting between the Cubs and the Mets. Now,
Baez has an opt-out in his contract after this year. Guess how much money the Tigers owe him for the next 4 years? Go on, guess.
It would be. Hold on, let me.
Yeah, you might be intimately familiar. You've got a passing interest in Javier Baez.
It's 22-ish million a year.
No, it's more than that.
More than that.
It's more than that. He is owed from 2024 through 2027 if he does not opt out of his contract. $98 million. $25 million a year the next two, $24 million a year, 2026 and 2027. $98 million. So that's what you're getting if you trade for Javier Baez. A $98 million obligation. Or Baez, all of a sudden, maybe a trade lights a spark and he plays great and then he decides to opt out like he's going to get more than $100 million for his 30s. Come on. That's not happening.
That's so much money. Like, he's not opting out.
No.
Who was the NBA player recently who had a terrible year and then was like, no, duh, I'm opting into my contract. Oh, my God. Who was it? There was some NBA player who had a really down year, but a big contract.
I don't remember. I know what you're talking about, but I don't remember.
I feel like it was a former star. I feel like it was like the last year of Dwayne Wade's career or something. It might have been Dwayne Wade, who just had a bunch of money owed to him and said, yeah, I'm taking that. What, are you kidding me?
I'll say this for Baez. He has cut his strikeout rate in half from its his career highs, and it's actually like below league average to start this year, which is good for him, but not a lot of thump. Never going to draw any walks. He's into his 30s. Yeah, I don't see it.
Real quick, I'm sure we will get to this again at some point during the summer. Who is the number 2 best trade piece for the Royals?
The second best trade piece for the
Chapman's
Royals?
number 1.
If he gets back going, it's probably Scott Barlow.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
If he gets back on track, it's probably Barlow.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
Or you could do Eddie O if somebody can DH him. Several pre-arb years, and I think if you're the Royals, you got to think, hey, we need to prioritize outfield defense.
Yeah, and there's just a bit of a logjam there anyway. Let's get a weather update.
Yes, the National Weather Service has issued a severe thunderstorm warning for western Franklin County, western Shawnee County, western Anderson County, southeastern Wabunsee County, Osage, Coffee, and Lyon counties until 4:45 p.m. this afternoon. At 3:49 p.m., severe thunderstorms were located along a line extending from near Auburn to 4 miles west of Lebo to 12 miles west of Madison, moving southeast at 40 miles per hour. These storms contain 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts and quarter-size hail. Hail damage to vehicles is expected. Expect wind damage to roofs, siding, and trees. Locations impacted include southwestern Topeka, Emporia, Osage City, Burlington, Carbondale, Rossville, Dover, Silver Lake, Auburn, Overbrook, Linden, Lebo, Burlingame, Americus, Scranton, Waverly, Olpe, New Strawn, Quennemo, and Melbourne. This includes following highways: Interstate 70 between mile markers 343 and 353, the Kansas Turnpike between mile markers 117 and 174, and Interstate 35 between mile markers 128 and 170. For your protection, if you're in the path of this storm, move to an interior room on the lowest floor of a building. Again, the severe thunderstorm warning for western Franklin County, western Shawnee County, western Anderson County, southeastern Wabunsee County, Osage, Coffee, and Lyon counties is in effect until 4:45 p.m. Central Time.
So if you're in any of those areas, please take the necessary precautions.
And also an apology for the last weather update. Apology to the good people of Reading, Kansas. I thought in my head that it can't be the British pronunciation. No, it very much is. And I apologize to the good folks of Reading, Kansas.
Let's get to a break here at the top of the hour for our national and local news. When we come back to lead off the 4 o'clock hour of the show today, what is the next contract for Patrick Mahomes going to look like? And is there maybe some brewing animosity between the two sides? Plus, we've got today's What Is Wrong With You, brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. And Michael Swain of Fog.net is going to swing by for this week's edition of Jayhawk Weekly. We will get to all that, your YouTube comments, and your texts coming up in the next hour of 580 Sports Talk.
Are you in the market for
2 of 580 Sports Talk going up on a Tuesday. Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucero here with you. Thanks so much for stopping by and spending some of your afternoon hours with us. You can hit us up on the text line. 785-272-9429 is the text line number. Let us know your thoughts on anything we are talking about on the show today. You can also jump into the comment section on YouTube. The name of our channel is Sports on 580 WIBW. Head over to YouTube, youtube.com. Go to the search bar. Just search for Sports on 580. We will be the first result. Click on our channel. You can subscribe right there. That's the best way to know when we're posting all of our live streams and other video content. And you can go right from there to finding our live stream right now. We're on the air right now. You can hop into the comment section along with the rest of the folks on YouTube and have some fun with us over the course of the show today. We'll talk a little Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes contract talk in just a moment. We've also got What Is Wrong With You a little bit later on this hour, and Michael Swain is going to join us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline for Jayhawk Weekly. Real quick, a bonus Random Question Tuesday entry. Walking into a room, what is your favorite way to enter? Like, do you do, like, most of the time you just, walk in. But if you were going to do some sort of thing, a pose, something acted out, what is your favorite thing to do as you enter a room?
It's never occurred to me to do a grand entrance. If I come into a room and there's a bunch of people there, I'm hoping to kind of slip in unnoticed so I can slip out unnoticed if I need to.
Really?
Big fan of the Irish goodbye.
Okay. Fair enough.
So no, like I don't walk into the room and announce myself like that. I guess.
Fair enough. The reason this came up is,
please tell me.
Last night, they're doing a new Jeopardy special for the next 2 weeks. Jeopardy Masters. And the King, Jeopardy James, was back, and he was introduced by doing the Chris Jericho early 2000s, late 90s,
like the dramatic turnaround,
turned backwards with his arms out, and then he turns around and pumps his fist. A big wrestling guy. So that's what made me think of this. I do the Randall from Clerks. You've seen Clerks, right?
Yes.
Where he walks into the room and just kind of struts. The Randall. Yeah, that's probably my personal favorite. I saw someone online in response to video of James doing that say they like to do the Scott Hall surfboard walk in, puts his hands out, low to the ground. That's a good one. That's a great way to enter a room.
Like if I'm excited to enter a room, I might give it a little skip or a little hop, little like Sammy Sosa hop into the room. If I'm excited to be there, just if there's a little bounce in my step. But no, typically I am not the type to call that kind of extra attention to myself.
I might just jump right through the door frame and yell, "Oh yeah!" like I'm a Kool-Aid man. That might be the next one to do. I'll do that tomorrow when I get into the office. I'll just jump into the sports corner and do the Kool-Aid Man reenactment. All right, on a actual sports note, there was a post today over at Pro Football Talk from the one and thankfully the only Mike Florio about Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes and what his new contract will eventually look like. I think it is generally accepted among Chiefs fans, Chiefs media, the NFL world at this point, that Patrick Mahomes is going to get a new contract at some point, or at least an amended contract. The Chiefs gave him a ton of money. They've got all these different mechanisms to make sure they can move money if they need to. They can guarantee things. They can convert it to signing bonus, all this different stuff. It is very team friendly while also guaranteeing a ton of money to Patrick Mahomes. His contract value has since been passed by Aaron Rodgers, although he's getting his restructured as well, by Deshaun Watson, by Jalen Hurts, now by Lamar Jackson. Joe Burrow is about to get a gigantic contract. Justin Herbert is about to get a gigantic contract. There will be others in the near future. We are all of a sudden not all that far away from this conversation for Trevor Lawrence. He's entering year 3. Next offseason, that's going to be the talk, is what is Trevor Lawrence's next contract going to look like, along with Justin Fields, among others. And some, like Trey Lance, is he even going to get to play out his entire contract? Guys like that. So At some point, I think most of us accept that there is going to be some sort of change to Patrick Mahomes' contract. Florio got real weird about this, to be completely honest with you. And I really am not sure why he wrote what he wrote. And I will tell you, I will read a part of it to you. Florio writes, quote, "The real question will become the value of the contract from the moment it's signed. Also relevant to the analysis will be the full guarantee at signing and the cash flow in the first 3 years of the revised deal." Mike, welcome to understanding how a contract works in 2023. He's covered the league for like 40 years. We know, dude. In 2020, Mahomes swapped a high average per year and a complicated but lucrative guarantee structure for cash flow in the years that were most likely to be affected by the pandemic. Now that those days have come and gone, the cash flow can be boosted in the early years of a revised deal. Whether big picture proclamations or devilish details, a new deal is coming for Mahomes sooner than later. He has more than earned it, and with each new quarterback deal that is done, his own situation becomes more glaring. Look for that to at least be partially rectified in the coming weeks or months. Again, I think generally that is accepted. We've talked about that.
Yeah.
He'll get a new deal at some point.
Him being the 7th highest paid quarterback in the league presently doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And at some point you move the numbers around. This is how it works in the NFL. You move the numbers around and you add some dollars to bring the players' actual compensation more in line with what their value is relative to the rest of the league.
And we'll get to some of the specifics here in a moment and what it could look like. But I also need to get to this final piece from Mike Florio. And I don't, like, what is going on in your synapses to make this thought make sense to you? He continues, quote, "Ultimately, Mahomes is trying to strike the balance of fair compensation with leaving enough cash behind to have a team that lets him pursue championships and ultimately to chase Tom Brady's all-time record of 7. Mahomes needs 5 to tie, 6 to win. While not yet a real threat to Brady, Mahomes isn't far from making things interesting. And that could be enough to get me interested in trying to get number 8 before it's all said and done, just in case. Dude, go outside. Breathe fresh air. Touch grass. Are you kidding me? Dude. What is that? Seriously, what is that? I don't understand why that would even click in your head.
Yeah, like if Mahomes goes and wins next year, 47-year-old Tom Brady's like, man, he's coming for me. I got to go get one more. I got to go do it.
Get John Lynch on the phone. I'm coming back.
And what number would Mahomes have to get to have Brady feel like his record is under significant threat? And then how old would Tom Brady be by the time Mahomes got to that number? Like, hey, he might win 4. Like, let's say Mahomes wins four Super Bowls. Mm-hmm. Who's got 4? Brady, Bradshaw. Is that it?
I think that's, yeah, because Aikman has 3. Montana, yeah. Montana's got 4. Like, okay,
that's it. You're the rarefied air of like 4. You're just then over half of where you need to get. And at minimum, for Mahomes to get a 4th ring, Tom Brady would be no younger than 47, 48 years old. And then he's just going to decide, man, got to get the arm loose. Got to limber up. I can't have this. I can't have him catch me. I have to go win my 8th ring as a quarterback.
Give it up, guys. Please give it up. Also, this is maybe not the time for this particular take. I think if you get to that number, like, the discussion, the discourse is always going to be, how many did you get relative to Tom Brady?
Yeah, he broke the curve. Kind of like Michael Jordan broke the curve in the NBA by winning 6. Even though that's not the most ever, he went 6 for 6 in the finals and won, like, essentially 6 straight.
Right.
So he broke the curve. And Tom Brady has broken the curve in a similar way.
I genuinely believe, though, you can have greatest of all time arguments as long as you are just, like, in the relative ballpark. Like, I don't think Patrick Mahomes needs to win 7 Super Bowls to say he might be the greatest of all time. Frankly, I think you get to 3 and you can have that discussion. We might be able to get to 2, honestly.
Yeah, but frankly, if you want to have that conversation now, I'm ready to have it. I really am.
Like, I know we're rehashing, like, first take arguments at this point, but, like, genuinely, is Tom Brady one of the 5 best quarterbacks in terms of on the field playing quarterback of all time?
I think so.
Top 5?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like playing, yeah, you have to put him top 5. Like in terms of raw physical ability, like if you want to say, well, John Elway had a better arm, or Randall Cunningham was a better athlete, or Michael Vick was better with his legs, like then yeah, you want to put some guys like with like physical tools above him. Sure, I would understand that. But as far as playing the position of quarterback, I'm at 5 better than Tom Brady. Come on now.
Is he top 3?
Like
Mahomes is in that group.
Because like Montana wasn't the most physically gifted quarterback there's ever been.
No, definitely not. I think a lot of people would tell you the more gifted 49ers quarterback in the Hall of Fame only won 1 Super Bowl.
Yeah, Steve Young. Like the list of like physically gifted quarterbacks of all time, I think it starts with Patrick Mahomes and John Elway. Like that's what we're talking about.
I would argue for Aaron Rodgers in the conversation.
And I say that as somebody who thinks John Elway is historically overrated. And not just being a hater either. Like, he was never first team All-Pro. Do y'all know that? You don't know.
It is pretty wild.
John Elway's never won. Even the year he won MVP of the league, he was not the first team All-Pro quarterback.
Which seems impossible.
Right?
Do we know who it was?
It was Montana.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, that makes sense. Yeah, that is wild.
So, but like it's in terms of like raw physical gifts to like throw it anywhere, to throw any throw, to be able to do things in scrambling with their legs and things like that. Yeah, like you put Elway above Brady on that list. But if you put Elway above Brady on your all-time rankings of quarterbacks, you're on drugs.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You're smoking that stuff that's legal in Denver.
So what does, to get to Mahomes again specifically, what does, we got some great names on the YouTube comments, by the way, some old school ones, but great names, Len and Unitas and Staubach and Montana, all legends. What does the new deal look like for Mahomes? Like, do you get, hey, Patrick, we're going to give you a raise and we're going to extend the deal with the same mechanisms in it? Because it's worked and they haven't had to break that glass in case of emergency more than I think once so far, but they can every year. It'll just make the end of the contract a bear. But do you just say, hey, we would like to give you the same contract structure with more money? I think Mahomes would at least be open to taking that if I had to guess. But I don't know. Maybe he says, hey, look, it's time for me to get all my money the way I want to be able to get it.
Well, that is going to be the question for Patrick Mahomes. What is more important to you? Is it being the highest paid quarterback in the league for however long you get to be that? Because the new deal, whoever gets the next deal resets the market. That's the way it's pretty much always worked. Whichever star gets the next deal resets the market. Mahomes, when he gets his deal, it'll reset the market. And then, when Joe Burrow is eligible for an extension after the one that he's inevitably going to get here maybe soon, then maybe he becomes higher paid. Mm-hmm. And maybe by that time, like if Bryce Young or Anthony Richardson really hit, they're up for extensions and they get that kind of money. If everything works out, or CJ Stroud or Caleb Williams or any one of the new guys that are coming into the league, Justin Fields, if it all clicks, I don't know. But it is a valid point that Tom Brady never got that. Like Tom Brady, he not living paycheck to paycheck.
No,
but he never got that deal that was market resetting, especially late in his career. That was never the priority. The priority, we're going to make sure you're taken care of, but we got to have the flexibility to make sure we have good enough players around you to go win. Mm-hmm. And that's why they won. So what is more important to Patrick Mahomes at this stage in his career? And I got to think it's the winning. Like, I think Mahomes is the kind of guy who would say, look, if giving me $55 million a year or whatever the number is going to be, if giving me $55 million a year means we can't be as competitive as we would otherwise be, then like I'll live on 50.
I think he is going to, if I had to guess, he is willing to be flexible with the way he gets his money or with the exact dollar amount. But we are just in such a unique situation that all these dudes are good quarterbacks who we've mentioned. Like Lamar Jackson, former unanimous MVP. He is a great quarterback. Jalen Hurts might be next. His time might be coming. Not that he's going to be better than Patrick Mahomes, but in terms of ascending to that top tier of quarterbacks, I think Burrow is either in that group or is halfway in. He is halfway through going, oh yeah, through the door frame of that one to be a little too self-referential to this segment. But none of them have won what Mahomes has won. Jalen Hurts got to a Super Bowl, lost it, played phenomenally, would have been Super Bowl MVP if they had won, but they didn't. You have Joe Burrow, who does not have an MVP either, got to a Super Bowl,
been to back-to-back conference title games, which Josh Allen's only been to one of those.
Allen's only been to one, has not beaten the Chiefs in the games that matter the most. Now,
has not been to a Super Bowl.
He hasn't even been to a Super Bowl. He's already got the big contract. Justin Herbert has been to the playoffs one time and was the quarterback for the team that suffered the most embarrassing playoff loss ever.
Yeah. We have a texter from the 785 who points out that Herbert's even inclusion in this conversation is mystifying.
Yeah. And then you've got the nasty man who, along with never winning anything, is the nasty man and was alleged to have committed heinous acts against women. Allegedly.
Speaking of breaking the curve, because now every quarterback goes to the table and says, well, I want what he got. I'm better than Deshaun Watson.
And if you're Mahomes, fact. Yes, correct.
And the other part of it, too, is this is why the players' union exists, and this is why this is important, because if Mahomes takes something less than market value, whatever that might be, then it's an excuse for the other 31 owners to not give their quarterbacks market value. Say, hey, Mahomes is only making $45 million. We can't go any higher than that because you're not Patrick Mahomes. Because none of these other dudes, let's be very clear, none of these other dudes are Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, there's greatness in that group, but there is greatness, and then there is a guy who 6 years into his career is already undeniably in that conversation for greatest of all time.
Yeah, it's GOAT talk with Mahomes in a way that it's not with these other guys, and I think all of them know that.
By the way, real quick interjection while we're talking quarterbacks all time. Jason in the YouTube comments, appreciate you hanging out with us, Jason. He says he's a biased Dolphins fan, but you got to look at Dan Marino. Dan Marino is the all-time greatest example of ahead of his time.
Crazy arm.
Yeah,
crazy
incredible arm. Incredible arm. He was putting up 2023 stats in 1984.
Yeah, he
just
was.
Unbelievable. And also will always be, unfortunately, the guy who didn't win a ring. Probably should have. He only got one chance.
It's wild. He went to one right away and then never again. And that's
why you better win one.
Yeah.
Because you don't know that you're going to get another chance. You know who's a great example of that?
Aaron Rodgers.
New quarterback of the New York Jets. If you had told anyone in February of 2011, this guy who just put together arguably the best quarterback playoff run ever with these weapons, and you're going to add more next year, and with an offensive-minded head coach is only even going to get to one of these, you would have said, no, that's ridiculous. That's dumb. That's like if you would have said that after Super Bowl 54. No, this team's going to get back. With Reed and Mahomes, they'll be back. You better win when you get there because you don't know how many chances you're going to get once you actually get there.
And this dude Mahomes been there 3 times. And so I do think that there will be the temptation to say, hey, I've gotten the rings. Let's go ahead and make sure that I'm financially taken care of. I just don't think Mahomes is that guy.
I don't think so either.
I think he's a lot more likely to go the Brady route of saying, I'll take a little less if it means we can keep a core around that makes us a more viable Super Bowl contender in a year and year out basis.
But
he's under no obligation to do that. Let's be clear. It doesn't make him a bad guy if he says, no, I want that $55 million.
It also does help that he is everywhere and he's got money coming from everywhere.
He really does.
I will leave the quote unquote conspiracy theories about Tom Brady's money out of this conversation. Let's get to a quick timeout here on 580 Sports Talk. But first, before that.
Yeah, let's go ahead and you heard the weather alert go off in the background there. Let's get you updated on the severe thunderstorm warning that is currently in western Franklin County, southwestern Shawnee County, western Anderson County, southeastern Wabaunsee County, Osage, Coffee, and Lyon counties until 5 p.m. Central Time. At 4:14, severe thunderstorms were located along a line extending from 4 miles west of Overbrook to 4 miles north of New Strawn to near Hamilton, moving southeast at 40 miles per hour. These storms include 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts and quarter-size hail. Hail damage to vehicles is expected. Expect wind damage to roofs, siding, and trees. Locations impacted include Emporia, Osage City, Burlington, Carbondale, Dover, Auburn, Overbrook, Linden, Lebo, Burlingame, Americus, Scranton, Waverly, Olpe, New Strawn, Quenemo, Melbourne, Hartford, Gridley, and Neosho Rapids. This includes the following highways: Interstate 70 between mile markers 348 and 350, Interstate 35 between mile markers 128 and 170, and the Kansas Turnpike between mile markers 117 and 173. For your protection, if you're in those areas, move to an interior room on the lowest floor of a building. Again, the severe thunderstorm warning for western Franklin County, southwestern Shawnee County, western Anderson County, southeastern Wabaunsee County, Osage, Coffee, and Lyon counties is in effect until 5 p.m. If you are in Topeka and north or northeast, the bulk of this storm, the dangerous part of this storm, the severe part of the storm, appears to be missing us just to the south, as you can kind of tell by the projected areas of impact here as the storm continues to move southeast at the rate that it's moving. We'll have another update for you after the break, I guess.
So let's get to a quick break. What is wrong with you? And some more weather updates are up next on 580 Sports Talk.
Hell.
Time for a Tuesday afternoon. What is wrong with you here on 580 Sports Talk? Brought to you by our good pals at Top City Metal Supply, who cuts the metal you need to your specifications, saving time, money, and material. Never settle when it comes to metal. Top City Metal Supply is found on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field. Our champion for the week, we found him yesterday, a gentleman who was pulled over and charged with a DUI while dressed as a Bud Light can.
It's so good.
And it was nice and close to home, Franklin County.
Franklin County, not far away.
All right. We've got two news stories today, not including my what is wrong with you today, which was going to and showering at the gym after a run today and not bringing a towel. So I had to dry myself off under the automatic hand dryer in the bathroom. That's my what is wrong with you for today. Dan, what's your story?
All right, we're going across the pond to England for this one. We meet a 69-year-old gentleman in Derbyshire who had been driving without a driver's license for 50 years and had managed all this time to fool insurance companies to cover his car. And he wouldn't have gotten away. He would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for his meddling self, because he bragged about it on social media. And eventually word got to the law enforcement, and law caught up with him in a Derby retail park where his vehicle was seized and the culprit reported for a number of offenses. Derbyshire Roads Policing tweeted, "The driver of this vehicle has never passed a test, despite being 69 years old and having been driving for over 50 years.
Hell yeah.
He has systematically provided details to insurance companies indicating that he had a license, but the flaw in his dastardly plan was bragging. His long reign came to an abrupt end once we found out." Like, just keep your mouth shut. You got a good gaffle going. Obviously, he is good enough at driving to, like, not have ever had
pulled over.
Yeah, like, there's never been the occasion for the police to bust you. You're obviously very good, very careful behind the wheel. A lot of people who have passed their driver's license test aren't. All you gotta do is keep your mouth shut, man. What made him at 69 years old decide to come clean? Or just say, hey, these idiot insurance companies, they've done it again. They keep giving me insurance despite the fact I ain't even got a license.
Another win for you, boy. I don't know why you would brag about that.
What? Just keep your mouth shut.
I do not. I don't get it. I do not understand one bit why you would brag about that. That is very dumb. Very funny. Very dumb.
Really funny.
My story today is going to take us to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, where a man who still shares a home with his ex-wife was arrested this week after he cocked a firearm and tried to ruin the mood as his ex and her boyfriend were having sex in a nearby bedroom. According to, or as alleged in an incident report, Alan Riggs began banging on the walls of his Myrtle Beach duplex upon hearing Jolynn Wolfrey, his ex-wife, and her boyfriend having sex in the upstairs area of the house. Riggs and Wolfrey, both 24 years old, are ex-spouses for approximately 2 years, and they live together.
That house must be, or that duplex must be expensive.
Yeah, look,
they must decide one whale the lease.
I am not going to fault you, no matter what you and your family, your close loved ones want to do. That would not be for me. I would be out of there as far as I could get. So in addition to hearing Riggs banging on the walls, the victim and her boyfriend then heard a racking sound of a firearm and understandably stopped what they were doing. Wolfrey says that when she later went downstairs, Riggs, gun in hand, he threatened her life. When questioned by Myrtle Beach Police Department officers, Riggs reportedly said that he became upset when he heard the couple having sex and, quote, banged on the wall to try and get them to quit. But after that method failed, he went out to his vehicle and grabbed his gun. Riggs told cops he then returned to the home and cocked his firearm in what he said was an attempt to, quote, ruin the mood. After the upstairs activity stopped, Riggs returned to the couch and played his mobile phone game. I wonder what it was. Was it like Pokemon Go? Was he playing Candy Crush? Would love to know.
Something real simple, like he just downloaded like Gin Rummy. Just enjoys playing a few hands.
He just loves Bejeweled.
Sudoku.
Police confiscated a 9mm pistol from Riggs, who was booked into the county jail on a felony rap. He's being held in lieu of $100,000 bond. I don't know exactly what the charges are. Probably shouldn't threaten your ex-wife's life.
No, you shouldn't do that. Like, he probably was really satisfied, really pleased with himself. Like, his plan worked. Like, they quit. That's what he was after. He just wanted them to stop. But look, bro, it's been 2 years. You know, you're not married anymore. She's got a right to do what she wants in her home, just like you do. Like, I don't know, go meet a girl.
Right? Your turn, dude.
Yeah.
You got separate bedrooms. And I cannot believe under
Do you think
any circumstances.
You think he comes home, there's like a sock on the doorknob of the duplex?
Oh my God. Like, dude, leave. You've got autonomy. You can go. Dude, it's Myrtle Beach. I know there are places to go.
Seriously.
I know for a fact there are places
leave the house.
to go.
Like it's not like he was trying to like watch the NBA playoffs and they were interrupting or something, or like he was working on his thesis. Like, no, he's just sitting playing one of those games where like the king will die if you do not like bust the jewels. That poor king.
Always trapped behind walls, snakes and whatever.
He's down so bad.
Playing Words with Friends, doing the daily challenges. Who you got for today?
I got to go with the British guy, the busted British bragger, as our guy Vance calls him in the YouTube comments. It's pretty good.
That's a great story. And he could have gotten away with it. He did. He did get away with it.
For half a century.
Unbelievable.
They didn't have Facebook when the scam started, I guess.
Someone suggested, I think it was Vance actually, it was Angry Birds that our other guy was playing. Flappy Bird, maybe. Does that beat the beer can?
Guy's dressed as a beer can driving drunk. That's going to be hard to beat, I think.
That's a little too on the nose.
It's going to be hard to beat.
That is phenomenal. That is, for the second day in a row, our winner in What Is Wrong With You. Brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. Metal cut to order when you need it. Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field.
Before we go to break, I wanted to pass along the latest severe thunderstorm warning for Franklin, Anderson and Anderson counties, and also southern Douglas County, eastern Osage County, and southeastern Coffee County is now in effect until 5:30 p.m. Central Time. At 4:26 p.m., severe thunderstorms were located along a line extending from 3 miles northeast of Overbrook to near Waverly to 4 miles east of Madison, moving east at 40 miles per hour. The storm contained 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts and quarter-size hail. Locations impacted with this warning include Ottawa, Baldwin City, Garnett, Burlington, Wellsville, Overbrook, Centropolis, Pomona, Waverly, Richmond, Colony, Williamsburg, New Strawn, Quenemo, Melbourne, Gridley, Greeley, Princeton, Lane, and Rantoul. This includes I-35 between mile markers 160 and 198. For your protection, move to an interior room on the lowest floor of a building. Torrential rainfalls occurring with these storms and may lead to flash flooding. Do not drive your vehicle through flooded roadways. Again, this warning until 5:30 p.m. Central for southern Douglas, eastern Osage, southeastern Coffee, Franklin, and Anderson counties.
Let's take a time out. Michael Swain joins us next on 580 Sports Talk.
one day at a time.
That's what made a difference today in the game.
I told him that was vodka.
Dollar signs.
Mike. What day is it, Mike?
What a scene in Lawrence, Kansas tonight.
Michael Swain covers the Kansas Jayhawks for Fog.net and 24/7 Sports. You can find all of his phenomenal, well-sourced journalistic work covering KU over at Fog.net. And you can find him on Twitter as well at mswain247. Michael, what's going on, man?
Not too much. I can't believe it's been a week since we talked. I feel like a lot has happened since then.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. So let's get into all the latest news here first. I'm trying to remember exactly what happened which day last week. We know Hunter Dickinson is a Kansas Jayhawk. We'll get to him a little bit more here in a moment. But the latest piece of information for KU is Mackenzie Mbago, who is a five-star prospect, top 10 in this class of freshmen, incoming freshmen, according to 24/7 Sports. Former Duke commit, five-star prospect, decommits from Duke because they have like 18 power forwards on their team. He announced today, or it was announced today, that his final two, Kansas and Indiana. You've been saying for a while, Michael, and correct me if I'm wrong here, that at the very least, KU feels like it's in a pretty good spot for the five-star.
Yeah, this is one of those situations where Bill Self has been really heavily involved in this recruitment. And oftentimes there's an assistant coach that will kind of be the lead recruiter, and Bill Self will be active, but maybe not be the lead person. And the only other person that has gotten this Self treatment is Hunter Dickinson. So Self's been heavily involved with the recruitment of Mackenzie Mbago. And I think that KU's done everything they can, just like they did with Hunter Dickinson. They pulled out all the stops. Self went to see him in person, right? They did the visit. And it sounds like they've done the exact same thing with Mackenzie, where they've done everything in their power to try and get him. And so it's one of those situations where, do you bet against Bill Self in a situation like this? I mean, it's kind of hard to go against him, especially considering the role that Kansas is on the recruiting trail right now. You look at just overall the roster overhaul that's happened. There's a very strong possibility that KU could end this cycle with a top 5 transfer class, maybe a top 5 high school class. Like, it could be pretty legit. So the addition of Mackenzie will be pretty massive, and we'll have to see whenever he decides to make that decision, which I think will probably be at some point this week. But Mackenzie doesn't do a lot of talking, so it's hard to really give you a specific date.
I know a good number of Indiana fans that knew a lot growing up, and one told me just today, we were chatting about this, and he said, I think Indiana is the best fit because he's going to play right away. He's going to have to fight for playing time at KU. And while I thought, well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys at Kansas that are going to want to get on the floor and are going to be a part of the rotation next year, and there's plenty of talent to go around. I feel like if Mackenzie wants to play at KU, there's going to be a spot. There's going to be a ton of minutes for him. I mean, he's a five-star prospect for a reason, even maybe in a down class this year. KU doesn't have a huge logjam at the 4 right now. It's pretty much just KJ Adams. I don't know exactly what the fit would be at Indiana, but I don't think playing time, at least in my assumption, Michael, would be a detriment against Kansas. How do you feel the fit actually lines up for him in terms of getting on the court?
Yeah, I think getting on the court, I think it's a really good fit. I mean, honestly, you look at, I think you mentioned right there, there's not a log jam at the 4. I think you can look at the guard position, kind of the 1 through 3, and say, yeah, there's probably a bit of a log jam there with considering how many guys KU has and how talented some of those players are. But you look at the 4, and it's really KJ Adams, right? Because KU wants to move KJ to the wing this offseason, and that'll probably end up happening a little bit more next season. And so there are minutes there to be had. And you look at what Mackenzie offers you at the 4, and it's a guy that's got really good athleticism, but it's a great shot creator. And it's a type of player that I think playing alongside Hunter Dickinson, if you want to project them to play in the same lineup, I mean, he's the type of guy that can feast off of Dickinson forcing double teams, where he can spot up in the corner. He's got a good 3-point shot and just feast off of that. And I think it's one of these situations where KU can use Grady Dick as an example of someone that came in, really fit a role, but fit that role really, really well, excelled, was a one and done, and now is going to be a lottery pick. And I think that's probably going to be a very similar recruiting pitch for someone like Mbago, where you can say, come in, play the 4, get some stretch 4 minutes, right? Maybe play at the 3, depending on how it works out. I don't know, but he's going to get the opportunity to showcase his skill set. And look, there aren't many stars in the NBA, right? Not everyone can be Steph Curry or LeBron James. There are guys that have to play roles, and showing that in college is a great way to also show your value to NBA teams where, hey, I can play this role and really excel. And I think that's the type of pitch you can give to someone like Mackenzie Mbako and have him like it, because he's still going to be able to get his own, but maybe is not going to be the number one guy on the team. But that isn't necessarily going to be a detriment to recruiting someone like him.
Our guest is Michael Swain of Fog.net, 24/7 Sports Network. He joins us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline for Jayhawk Weekly, as he does every week at this time here on 580 Sports Talk. You can find Michael Swain's work at Fog.net, and you can find him on Twitter at mswain247, 24/7. Let's talk about Hunter Dickinson, the number one transfer in the class, committing to Kansas last week. What big man in the Bill Self era will Hunter Dickinson play the most like, do you think?
That's a really good question. I think it might be different than really anybody Bill Self has had, because you look at the three-point shot that Hunter Dickinson has, and he talked about wanting to shoot that more. He might be a better version of someone like maybe Dedrick Lawson, where you saw Dedrick Lawson shoot some threes, a really creative scorer, maybe not an A-plus athlete at 5. I think he's the type of player that maybe fits that kind of mold where, Dickinson's 7'1" instead of 6'8" or 6'9", or whatever Dedrick was, I can't remember. And he's got the size to have that back-to-the-basket game, really back someone down. He's got the passing ability out of the post where it's going to make him hard for other teams to double team him. And I just think the overall skill set probably is that of posted Dedrick. But again, you're talking about someone that is just a larger human and probably just maybe a little bit better overall than Dedrick was. And that's saying something considering the numbers Dedrick put up.
I think it is also important to note with that specific comparison, Michael, that Hunter will probably have more dunks in his Kansas career by halftime of his first game than Dedrick had in the whole season. And I love Dedrick Lawson, but I do not recall any dunks.
No, it's like Jalen Wilson, right? There's not a lot of dunks, a lot of under the brim stuff. Now, Hunter's going to dunk a lot. I think the comment he made that I thought was really fascinating is he said that Bill Self was already kind of trying to figure out ways to tweak the offense to get Hunter in even better positions. And I think everyone knows how good of a in-game adjustment or just year-to-year adjustment type of coach Bill Self is. And to have Hunter come out and say that the day he commits, I think that's got to be pretty exciting for Kansas fans to think about that. We're in May and you got till basically November to come up with some cool plays and cool schemes and sets. I mean, that's a lot of time for one of the best coaches in all of college basketball history.
Which guys do you think complement him best, either as a front court duo or other guys you think will benefit from being on the floor with him?
Yeah, I think too, right off the bat, I think about someone like Nick Timberlake, coming from Towson. His three-point shot is going to be legit from the start. And he's the type of player who, again, if teams double team Hunter Dickinson in the post, well, all of a sudden you're talking about closeouts and rotation. And Nick Timberlake's the type of guy that I feel like can really, really excel off of those type of situations. I think someone like if Mackenzie Mbako picks Kansas in the end, I think he's the type of person that's the perfect fit, right? He can slash to the rim. He can spot up from 3. He's creative in terms of his ability to score the basketball. And I think, if teams are going to try and double team Hunter Dickinson, then he's another guy that can really feed off of that. And I think that Dickinson overall is the type of guy that, he's going to create so much gravity on the floor that I think everyone on the team is going to be better because of it, because, KU is going to go at him every single time if the other team's not going to double team him, right? If they're going to say, hey, we'll let Hunter have his, well, Hunter's going to have his, and it's going to be 35 points on pretty efficient shooting. So I think overall, his type of player is going to really elevate everyone else on the roster, but I think Timberlake and potentially someone like Mackenzie Mbako are really going to be able to have success with him.
This might come off as a wet blankety question, and I don't mean it to, but does this roster have enough shooting?
We'll have to see by the end of the week what it looks like. I think that's probably a concern, most definitely. I think that's probably why they prioritized Timberlake so much at the beginning, because he is the same level of shooter as Grady Dick and is probably more proven in college than Grady was, obviously being a freshman. I think you're probably relying on someone like DeJuan Harris continuing his three-point shot that he did last year. Arterio Moore shot the ball pretty well in the last half of Big 12 play, if I remember the numbers right. So maybe he continues that. But I do think that is a concern, because you look at those freshmen coming in right now, and you really don't know about Marco. The chatter is that shot has improved, but you just don't know. And then, Chris Johnson and Jamar McDowell, like, you just don't know what that's going to look like. So I think it's a fair concern. we'll have to just see what the roster looks like, I think, when the portal closes and when kind of everyone shows up for the summer.
Just a couple more minutes with Michael Swain from 24/7 Sports and Fog.net. He covers the Kansas Jayhawks better than anybody and does so for Fog.net. You can find him on Twitter as well, at mswain247, and he joins us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline for Jayhawk Weekly here on 580 Sports Talk. Zuby Ejiofor last week, he enters the transfer portal. I don't think that was a surprise. I mean, maybe it was, which big man is going to enter, but you bring in Hunter Dickinson, who's got multiple years left. Somebody is going to end up leaving. I think everybody kind of understood that. Does it feel like it was from what you've heard and the people you know around the program, does it feel like it was a hard decision for Zuby and for the team to say, hey, maybe it's best to go in different directions? Or how did that kind of unfold after the Dickinson commitment?
Yeah, I think it's definitely on Zuby Ejiofor's side. This is one of those things where I think from KU's perspective, they probably would say, hey, we've been recruiting Hunter Dickinson since he stepped in the portal a month ago. Why does this change? I think it was pretty known that KU had a really good shot. So I think that for him, it's just a question of now, do you want to wait another year, behind Hunter, potentially behind someone like Ernest Uday? And look, Dickinson's going to play 30 minutes. So you're talking about 10 minutes at the 5, right? And you're probably looking at one other big man getting it. So one guy's going to be left out. And you can't really blame guys for transferring, trying to find spots where they can go get minutes, especially if you're like Zuby and you're talented. He can go somewhere and play right away and have a bigger role there than he, as a sophomore, than he would at Kansas, where he'd probably have to play the waiting game. So I think it's one of those situations where I think it's just kind of a given nowadays, right? If you're going to recruit high-end transfers, there are going to be those guys that are maybe more developmental players that maybe you're going to look and say, am I going to get the minutes I want to get during this 4-year college career, which at the end of the day is pretty short.
And to that point, we'll round it out with this, Michael. I know that McKenzie is not a transfer player per se. I mean, he's still a recruit, but he was committed and had signed a national letter of intent with Duke before he ended up reopening his recruitment, and that's why KU is in the mix now. If he ends up picking KU, is there reason to maybe not be worried if you're a Kansas fan, but to at least have the thought in your mind that there might be some other movement? Because that's another guy who's going to want the ball, who's going to be on the floor a bunch, and he's super talented. But is that possibly going to create some more movement with this roster?
I mean, obviously you can't really rule it out these days with, national letters of intent really don't, I mean, they mean something, but they really don't mean something. And, in terms of, I think the incoming transfers, right? Like Nick Timberlake's not going to leave, and I don't think Arterio is going to leave, and Hunter's not going to leave. So I think I don't know if there'd be more movement out. I think you just look at the 4 and say, hey, KJ, hey, McKenzie, can you two kind of hold it down there for all season? And I think you'd say, yeah, and both of them could be pretty happy because I think you can slide one of them to the 3 maybe in some certain lineup combinations, and maybe there's some minutes there at the 5 if there's foul trouble or something like that. So I wouldn't rule out saying there's not going to be any more movement, but I'm not planning on that happening or really having a story ready for that, if that's a good way to put it.
Michael Swain covers the Kansas Jayhawks better than absolutely anybody, and he does it for Fog.net, which is part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Go check it out. Be a VIP. It is absolutely worth it. You can find Michael on Twitter as well, at mswain247, and he joins us every single Tuesday, bottom of the 4 o'clock hour, here for Jayhawk Weekly on 580 Sports Talk. Michael, we appreciate the time as always. Thank you so much. You're right. I didn't even realize that all this stuff happened within the last week. I thought Hunter was like 3 weeks ago at this point. So we appreciate the time, and hopefully we'll have some more news to chat about next week.
Awesome. Sounds great, guys. Talk to you then.
That is Michael Swain from Fog.net for Jayhawk Weekly. Real quick, before we get to the top of the hour, Dan, we've got a weather update.
We do. We have a severe thunderstorm warning until 5:15 p.m. Central Time for northwestern Franklin County, southwestern Douglas County, and northeastern Osage County. At 4:49 p.m. Central Time, a severe thunderstorm was located near Overbrook, moving east at 30 miles per hour. This is a destructive storm for Overbrook, containing 80-mile-an-hour wind gusts and quarter-size hail. Flying debris will be dangerous to those caught without shelter. Mobile homes will be heavily damaged. Expect considerable damage to roofs, windows, and vehicles, and extensive tree damage and power outages are likely. Locations impacted include, in addition to Overbrook, Carbondale, Centropolis, Lone Star, and Globe. For your protection, move to an interior room on the lowest floor of a building. Again, that is a severe thunderstorm warning for northwestern Franklin County, southwestern Douglas County, and northeastern Osage County until 5:15 p.m. Central Time. That is in addition to the severe thunderstorm warning remaining in effect until 5 p.m. Central Time for western Franklin, western Anderson, eastern Osage, and Coffee counties.
We will keep you updated on that throughout the afternoon. By the way, one final thought on KU hoops before we get to a timeout here for the national and local news at the top of the hour. We do know where Zuby Ejiofor is going to visit out of the portal. Villanova, St. John's, TCU, San Diego State. Probably the best G5 program, or quote-unquote mid-major in the country right now in San Diego State, plus Villanova, Rick Pitino, and another Big 12 school in TCU. Not surprised. That's the list for Zuby Ejiofor. He'll find playing time somewhere. I'm certain of that. We've got to get to a break. We'll lead off the 5 o'clock hour with our 580 Sports Talk headlines here on 580 WIBW.
Talking with Dr.
1 hour to go on a Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucero joining you here on the program. Thank you so much for being a part of the show with us. Whether you are listening in on 580 AM or 104.9 FM, listening online on our website, 580WIBW.com, or checking us out on YouTube, where our channel is called Sports on 580 WIBW. We appreciate you for being a part of the show with us. We're also taking your texts throughout the show. 785-272-9429 is the text line number. And, of course, you can hit us up in the YouTube comment section as well. Again, the name of our channel is Sports on 580 WIBW. That's where you can find the live stream every single day that we are on the air. We've got a bunch of headlines to get to today. Those are coming up in just a moment. We will also preview Royals baseball tonight against the White Sox, and any further updates we've got about the weather situation we'll get to as well. So without further ado, let's just jump right into today's 580 Sports Talk headlines. We have actually, this was not, well, maybe this was planned. Dan formatted a lot of this, but we've essentially got notes from all of the major sports. So we can just break them down pretty easily, sport by sport. So let's get to the biggest and most important news, and let's just get right into the playoff roundup.
Let's do it. We're going to do the playoff roundup.
Playoffs?
I could have given you a better lead into that. I apologize.
I was on the wrong page. So, yeah, it would have taken me a moment anyway. But it is time for the daily
Playoffs?
roundup. We take a look at what's going on the hardwood and the ice, as their postseasons, of course, are in full swing. In the NHL last night, the Vegas Golden Knights crushed the Edmonton Oilers 5-1 to take a 2-1 series lead in that Western Conference semifinal series. With both the Oilers and the Maple Leafs behind in their respective series, we are moving closer to yet another year without a Canadian winner of the Stanley Cup. It has been since, do you know?
No.
1993.
Wow.
That is the last time a team from the Great White North won a Stanley Cup. It was the Montreal Canadiens beating Wayne Gretzky's Los Angeles Kings.
Yep.
That's the last time.
I thought it was later. I knew it was the 90s. I did not know it was 93, though.
Yeah, it's been a really long time. Like, the Leafs have not been to a final. Vancouver's been to 2 since then, including 1994. They took the Rangers 7 games.
My entire life. I was born in September of 94.
Yes.
So my entire life, there's never been a Canadian Stanley Cup champion. And to be completely honest with you, it's very funny.
It is kind of funny. I think the Senators maybe made one final. Edmonton's been to 1 since then. Calgary's been, I think, once.
It was at 06. They lost to Carolina, didn't they?
Was that? No, they lost to Tampa Bay.
Oh.
It was Tampa Bay's first cup.
Oh, okay.
I think it was before the lockout year. So it would have been 04, I think, was the 04 Cup was Calgary, Tampa Bay, if I remember right. And I might not, but I think that happened when I was in high school. Edmonton went in like 07, Vancouver in 94, and like 2010 or 2011, somewhere in that range. Toronto hasn't been. Ottawa maybe once. And I know I'm forgetting a team. Oh, Montreal. Yeah. They haven't been to a lot of finals since then. Maybe. No, they went to the one in the bubble. They went to the bubble final and lost to Tampa Bay.
Man, you could have told me that the Seattle Metropolitans played in the bubble final, and I would have said, oh, okay, yeah. I know the Lightning won. I had no other recollection of anything about that season.
Yeah, the way that they broke it all up and how the teams were, like, it was not Eastern Conference and Western Conference at that point. It was just the divisions. And, so that's how Tampa Bay played Montreal in the Stanley Cup final.
I did not watch a single second of bubble hockey. Not 1 second of it.
Man, I thought the Avs were going to win the cup in the bubble. And then they all got hurt. And they had to play their third string goaltender in their series. And they lost to Dallas in 7 games. Lost game 7 in overtime.
Oof.
Yeah. Avs haven't won a game 7 since 2001. It's not a sore subject at all.
But they do have a cup.
Yes, they do have a cup since then. Tonight on Frozen Pond, you've got game 4s in the Hurricanes-Devils series and the Stars-Kraken series. Carolina leads 2-1 on the road tonight. The Kraken try and take a 3-1 series lead over the Stars in Seattle. Last night in the NBA, the Miami Heat topped the New York Knicks to take a 3-1 series lead in that Eastern Conference semifinal while, of all people, Lonnie Walker IV scored 15 fourth-quarter points to help the Los Angeles Lakers defeat the Golden State Warriors and take a 3-1 lead in that Western Conference semifinal series. You talk about things I could not believe that were happening even as I was watching them happen. Lonnie Walker IV possessed by the spirit of Kobe Bryant for one quarter of basketball.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible. Again, then he missed a couple in a row, and I thought, okay, everybody has seen this game when someone gets wildly hot, way above average, and then comes crashing back down. And I thought, okay, yeah, this is happening. Golden State's going to win. And then he just bounced right back, and he kept making shots again. It was remarkable. I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah, it was pretty remarkable, and the Warriors, in the meantime, made some really stupid plays in the final 2 minutes. And Klay Thompson looks cooked, looks out on his feet. It might be over for the defending champs. I think they're going to win Game 5. I think they're going to at least win at home.
Probably.
It's weird that a team that won 11 road games during the regular season is having trouble on the road in the playoffs. So strange.
Can we ask some questions about Steve Kerr?
What kinds of questions would you like to ask?
He's a great coach. He's going to go to the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
Great coach.
Yeah.
This is now 2 series in a row where there have been moments in crucial games when the Warriors were completely unprepared. Like multiple situations last night where they had timeouts they could have used instead of doing dumb things. Like Steph going up, grabbing the ball on a jump ball with 3 seconds left?
5 seconds left. Unbelievable play. Yeah, if he lands on his back and calls time, then the Warriors could have maybe tried to draw something up, get a look with 3 seconds. Instead, he just kind of flung it out of bounds.
Because I understand he didn't see anyone around him. No one was coming to help. You got to get the ball somewhere. Otherwise, you're done. I understand that part of it. Here's the problem with that, though. They had a timeout.
Yeah.
And remember last series when Steph called the timeout they did not have?
Yeah, I remember that.
And they also... Draymond drove the ball essentially into the third row last night and then realized, what do I do? And then just threw it to no one to turn it over late. Steve, what are you telling these guys in the huddle at the end of games? Like, shouldn't at some point these guys know what the timeout situation is? I mean, they're professionals. They've won championships. They should be aware of that anyway, but maybe you should reinforce that. Just a thought. I'm not going to tell a Hall of Famer how to coach, but just a thought.
Tonight in the NBA playoffs, pivotal Game 5s. Love saying pivotal Game 5. Pivotal Game 5 in Boston and in Denver. Philly and Boston tied at 2. Phoenix and Denver tied at 2. Boston is a 7.5-point favorite, at least according to one sports book. I can double check that number with our friends at FanDuel, and it is 7.5 there as well. The Phoenix and Denver line has moved 2 points since this morning.
Ooh, in favor of who?
In favor of Denver.
Okay.
Denver now 6.5-point favorites in that game. The home teams are, at least on the balance of play in the series, the better teams.
Mm-hmm.
With Denver, the concern is Devin Booker might not miss a shot. Because that is essentially what happened for 2 games in Phoenix, is he shot literally 73% from the field, which is like a video game. Like if you turned on NBA 2K and played on rookie mode, you would not make 73% of your shots. And Devin Booker is doing it from here, there, and everywhere, over double teams. It's like, you got to hand it to him. It's been incredible. The Philly-Boston series is weird because neither team feels all that trustworthy. Like, I don't think Celtic or 76er fans have a lot of confidence in their team to win that game.
Well, Celtics fans really shouldn't because they've been playing like front runners from the jump.
Yeah, they got to get out to a big lead because late game situations for the Celtics, they mess down their legs. Like they don't know what to do.
Big time. Is that a coaching thing or is that a player thing?
I think it's a coaching thing. Remember, they fired their coach who got them to the finals last year for some
creep.
Yes, some peccadillos, perhaps you could say. And then they installed a 34-year-old guy with no head coaching experience. At least Ime Udoka had been in the league forever. Like Joe Mazzulla is 34 years old. He got the job because of proximity. Yeah. And twice in this series, they have had crucial possessions end without a shot being taken. Like that can't happen.
No, you can't have that.
The Phoenix-Denver series, this feels very much like the old cliche about basketball being a make or miss game carried to the most extreme. Like if Devin Booker is going to score at that level. And if the supporting cast like Landry Shamit's going to come off the bench and make threes, and meanwhile, Denver is going to have Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. miss a bunch of open threes, then Phoenix will win.
Yeah.
If all of those things don't happen, Denver should win.
I would agree with all of that.
So, hopefully my Nuggets get the home court bump.
I would like to see Jamal Murray. I love Jamal Murray.
I do too.
Love his game. Loved it since he was at Kentucky. I would like to see him spend fewer possessions dribbling a hole in the Earth's crust and then pulling up for a mid-range jumper.
Brother.
Personally, that is one thing.
Yeah, there are too many possessions that are just Murray dribbles for 18 seconds and then shoots a tough turnaround because the double team comes at the very end. Phoenix has made some adjustments. Denver's made some adjustments too, but there's only so much adjustment you can make to Devin Booker makes every shot.
At least one of those games in that series swings the other direction. So 2-2, Denver won the first two, Phoenix won the second two. At least one of those games, Phoenix won, swings the other way if one of two things happens. Maybe both. Jamal Murray spends less time just dribbling the ball himself with his head down. Or two, Michael Porter Jr. had a basketball IQ greater than that of a roasted peanut. Incredibly gifted, talented player.
Yeah, they
less basketball IQ than any given member of the Alpha Media sales team.
It feels like the Nuggets did not a lot of dumb stuff, but they did some dumb stuff in some big spots, and they didn't shoot it as well. They were 33% from three in the two games in Phoenix. And then for the Suns, Booker made everything, and Durant was at the line all the time. And in game 4, they got the unlikely contribution from Shamet, who scored 19 points, a player that Suns fans were booing when he subbed in game 3. He didn't play game 2. And when he played game 3, you could hear fans going,
yes, the collective groan.
Still in all, those games were decided by a combined 5 and 7 points. And it feels like that's sort of the margin in this series. That Phoenix needs so much to go right. And Booker's so good that it might go right for them 2 more times. That's the scary thing. He is absolutely the monster under the bed.
At the WinBet Sportsbook, Win, W-I-N-N, Phoenix is getting 51.5% of the bets. The total number of wagers.
Spread bets, yes.
51.5% have gone to Phoenix. 82% of the money is on Denver. So anyone with any amount of real money to wager and not here's $5 is betting on Denver in this game. I would be on that side of the ledger. I don't know if I'm going to bet that game, though.
I don't bet playoff games my teams play in as a general rule.
Fair enough.
I can't even bring myself to do the emotional hedge most of the time. But just know this: if Denver loses that game, I'm not going to sleep tonight.
Understandably,
because I don't want to fall asleep and see Devin Booker in my nightmares.
That's completely fair. Continuing on with today's 580 Sports Talk headlines, let's get to our MLB news of the day. First, this is just very funny. This isn't really news, but I just saw this tweet, and it's very funny. From Marlon Humphrey, cornerback of the Baltimore Ravens.
Yes.
Tweeted, I was going to go support the Orioles tonight, but then the conditioning test had other plans. I passed, but I'm tired, boss. Very funny. All right, your actual news for the day, your actual headlines. The Kansas City Royals have an update on Ryan Yarbrough from today. A positive update on their starting pitcher. Ryan Yarbrough is doing well and is out of the hospital. They tweeted half an hour ago. He will not require surgery. He has entered into the concussion protocol and will continue with follow-ups as required for the next month. So it's going to be a while before we see Ryan Yarbrough. And again, he has multiple facial fractures, but no surgery. That is a big deal. That is wonderful for him. Hopefully we see him as soon as possible. But look, some injuries are just about let's get healthy and get back on the court, on the field, whatever. Some are equal amounts recovery and mental. I would imagine, Ryan Yarbrough coming out at all the rest of this year is going to be tough as nails because you get hit in the face with a ball that breaks your face in multiple places. Yeah, it's going to be hard to get back on the mound. So anytime you see him, he deserves a standing O because that is true sports toughness. Also, from the baseball world today, we have a couple of notes here, and I lost our show notes for a second. Max Fried, ace pitcher for the Atlanta Braves, he is going back to the injured list with a forearm strain. However, it does not appear to be something that will need Tommy John surgery. It is not UCL reconstruction issues. However, it is going to be a substantial IL stint. So not expected to need Tommy John, but he is going to be out for more than just the minimum 15 days. Also, this breaking near the top of the hour, the Oakland A's have agreed to a deal with Bally's Corporation to build a $1.5 billion stadium on the site of what is currently the Tropicana Hotel and Casino, not off the Strip, right in the middle of the Las Vegas Strip. This is supposedly, according to Howard Stutz of the Nevada Independent, going to reduce the amount of public funding the team is asking for from Henderson County, Nevada, to just $395 million. And I say just almost tongue-in-cheek because, oh my God, that's a lot of money. But also because that's a lot less than they were previously going to be looking for. It would be a 35,000-seat retractable roof stadium on 9 acres of land at the currently 34-acre site on Tropicana Avenue at the southern end of the Strip. Originally, the A's, I got the number here, were looking for about $500 million in public funding. So this will knock more than $100 million off that.
The Tropicana, just south of the Bellagio and a couple blocks south of Caesar's Palace. It's on that side of the Strip.
Near the Excalibur. My dad stayed at the Excalibur one time. He brought me home a pen.
You'll probably be able to see it from the airport. Man, you thought Mets games had a lot of air traffic. Harry Reid International Airport is like right there.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I suspect it will be a roofed stadium, either retractable or permanent. But right next to the airport.
Yeah. How about that? So that's your latest from around Major League Baseball today. And again, we'll preview Royals versus White Sox coming up here in just a few minutes.
Continuing with our headlines, some sad notes. We'll go ahead and group these headlines together. Some sad news from the sports world in the last 24 hours. Joe Kapp, former Minnesota Vikings quarterback them in their first Super Bowl appearance, also was a CFL legend, one of the all-time great Canadian Football League players. He passed away yesterday at the age of 85. He had been struggling with mental decline for about a decade now, and he passed away yesterday at the age of 85. And then today, Denny Crum, the legendary former head basketball coach at Louisville, Hall of Fame basketball coach, guided Louisville to national championships in 1980 and 1986, died today. He was 86. Crum made the NCAA tournament 23 times in 30 seasons, was the second fastest coach to win 500 games, and had the red sport coat. He really had that on, man. He was dripping on the sideline in that red blazer. So Denny Crum passed away today at 86.
All-time great, Denny Crum. I mean, Louisville to the core, and did so much for that program. I got to be honest with you. I thought I remembered that he had passed recently, not today, but recently. I'm glad I was wrong, and he had no more time on this earth, but very sad day for college basketball.
1994 inductee into the Hall of Famer. Also, I did not know this until today, played for John Wooden at UCLA.
I did not know that until today either. I also saw it, and he was an assistant for Wooden too, I believe. Yeah, that is all-time great for in the college basketball world. Unfortunately, losing Denny Crum today. And yeah, Joe Kapp, one of those guys who, like most people who started paying attention to the NFL within the last 30 years, probably Joe Kapp not really on their radar, but he was a great quarterback in his day. And again, like you said, a CFL legend.
And famously got into a fist fight with another former CFL player, Angelo Mosca, at at an event, like one of those black tie type let's get together and reminisce on the good old days. And Joe Kapp was not there to reminisce. He was there to beat Angelo Mosca up.
Yeah, he was.
And those two dudes got in a fight. That was
one of the all-time great viral videos.
Yes. Yes, that about a decade or so ago. Those two, like one of them had a cane. I forget which one of them, and swinging it at the other. And yeah, it got wild. Joe Kapp was he was a football player.
Was it?
Football guy.
I feel like that was more than a decade ago.
Yeah, it might have been.
I feel like I saw that video on the Best Damn Sports Show period. I feel like Maybe I didn't, but that just feels like two things that really lined up for me.
Let's see here. 2011. So, yeah, a little more than a decade ago.
Okay, yeah, maybe past the BDSSP era. Next up, I want to get to this before we round out our headlines. We don't do a ton of NHL outside of our playoff roundup during this time of year. But last night was the draft lottery for the NHL draft, very similar to the NBA draft lottery. And there is both the NBA and NHL, very similar, a truly generational prospect this year. In basketball, it's Victor Wembanyama. We'll find out who's going to draft him coming up sometime next month. The NHL, the hockey player, Connor Bedard. This is a player that for probably 2 full years now, teams have been planning to tank for. Like the Columbus Blue Jackets, the Anaheim Ducks, among other teams. This has been a long-term plan. We are going to lose every game we possibly can in 22-23 so we can make sure to go land Connor Bedard. Well, those two teams were the top two with the best odds to land him. They did not. Instead, it was the team with the third best odds, the Chicago Blackhawks, who ended up winning the lottery. They will pick first in the NHL draft. They are going to take Connor Bedard. That is minus 100 billion right now. It is going to happen. They will take Connor Bedard. Every single NHL fan that I have seen on social media, because I gave up being a fan, even a casual fan of the Chicago Blackhawks for the Kyle Beach incident. Until the Wirtz family is gone, they will not get my attention or my money. But Blackhawks fans I know, and I know tons of them, super excited. Like, wow, we just exited one era, spent 25 games without Patrick Kane, and now we're going to go get this dude? Hell yeah, awesome. Every other hockey fan thinks it was rigged. Every single other hockey fan I have seen on social media or in my personal life believes that it was rigged.
Counterpoint, if you were going to rig a lottery, if you're going to be a league and you were going to rig a lottery and you wanted to reward a franchise, you could have probably picked a better one than the one that covered up a culture of sexual harassment and had that taint their magical dynastic run in the early 2010s.
Agreed. The other counterpoint, though, is you know what that Blackhawks run did? Made a lot of money for the NHL because that is a large fan base, a pretty much dormant fan base because they had sucked for 50 years. But that's a popular team. That is a team that has a national recognition at this point.
If they wanted to reward a big market, though, Detroit has had the worst team in the league for 7 years.
Yeah.
Another historically great hockey market with
great hockey market, you could argue.
Yeah, with lots of. I mean, they call themselves Hockey Town, man.
Yeah,
and they have had some really bad luck in the lottery.
Yeah, they have. I saw something like they haven't moved up in the lottery in, I think, any of those 7 years, or at least since Steve Yzerman took over.
I think that's right.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
Speaking as a Colorado Avalanche fan, you hate to see it.
Yeah.
But more than that, you love to see it.
Also, as someone who once disliked them as a once Blackhawks fan.
Yes.
Wow, it's so tragic for Detroit.
We'll round out on another NHL note is, again, we don't typically talk a ton of hockey unless it's me being a homer about the Colorado Avalanche. The Avalanche got some bad news today. Their captain, Gabriel Landeskog, who missed all of last season dealing with a knee injury, will miss all of next season as well. He is going to undergo cartilage replacement surgery on his knee. He originally injured his knee in the bubble. We were talking about the bubble playoffs of 2020. He accidentally got cut with his teammate's skate blade in the knee and had to miss the rest of the playoffs when he suffered that injury. He came back for the 2021-22 campaign. Well, the year after the bubble, he played the whole year. Mm-hmm. And then the year after that, he had some discomfort in the knee, had knee surgery before the playoffs, came back in the playoffs, helped the Avalanche win the Stanley Cup. That's the last time we've seen him on ice in a competitive game because he did not play last year. There was a lot of hope that he might be able to play, maybe even by the playoffs, but it never materialized, and it really hurt the Avalanche and their ability to make another Stanley Cup run. They got eliminated in the first round this year. For next season, now that they know that Landeskog is out, they can put him on long-term injured reserve and create salary cap room So they don't have to put him on the salary cap. It doesn't count towards the cap. And he's making $7 million a year, which is huge money in the NHL.
Yeah.
That's superstar money. So now the Avalanche have a little more cap creativity to go and get some players to replace him. But really, it's hard to replace your captain. And that's what Landeskog has been since he was a teenager for the Avalanche. The 30-year-old Landeskog says he is not yet contemplating retirement, but the track record for guys who get cartilage replacement surgery is not good. Chicago Bulls guard Lonzo Ball has undergone this surgery, and
yes, he has.
Like, he can't even walk. Yeah. Right? He can't even walk the way he used to. There was another former NHL player on Twitter today said that he got the surgery and he never came back from it, and that is certainly a realistic fear for Gabriel Landeskog of the Colorado Avalanche.
That sucks for him. Awful for him. I really was hoping not to think about Lonzo Ball today. That's a bummer. That's unfortunate. With that, we'll finish up our 580 Sports Talk headlines. Let's get to a quick timeout. On the other side of this break, we will get to a little preview of Royals versus White Sox tonight. That's coming up on 580 Sports Talk. On 580 Sports Talk. I'm Brendan. He's Dan. Thank you so much for being a part of the show today. Royals baseball coming up tonight.
For fans who might be hopeful either on our YouTube comments or on the text line, hopeful for a rainout tonight. First of all, rude. The Royals have won 2 in a row. They win one more. That's called a winning streak. It has happened before. And I guarantee you, Jake said the exact same thing on Mic'd Up.
1,000,000% chance.
Yes. He makes that reference all the time, and I've clearly worked with him for too long. The other thing is, looking at the radar, there will be some rain in Kansas City, no question about that. But it doesn't look like it'll be too severe. It'll probably move through enough. I wouldn't be shocked if there's a delay, but they're going to play baseball tonight at the K.
That's good.
And we're going to have it for you right here on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9. Pregame coverage when we're done. Pregame coverage top of the 6 o'clock hour and the first pitch at 6:40.
Jordan Lyles is on the bump today.
Oh, man, now I want to rain out.
Yeah. I mean, look, what do you What do you even ask for at this point? I mean, he has been dreadful. His first start of the year was good. That was a good start. And ever since then, it has just been slog after slog after slog. And the crappy thing is he's not even eating up a ton of innings. He only went 4 last time out. He's only gone 9 innings combined over his last 2 starts. Dude, you've got to go out there and get at least 6. That is your whole job, is to eat innings. And if you're not doing that, why are you here?
Yeah, no joke. Yeah, he's got to be a lot better. And it starts to keeping the ball in the ballpark. And he has been pretty terrible at that. It's not been his strong suit historically. Reflexively, when I go and try and look at Jordan Lyles' stats, I click on the Rockies page and not the Royals page. Just telling you, he pitched for your team long enough, you'll be scarred by the experience.
Yeah, I believe that.
But 11 home runs in 40 and a third innings is it's like being fat, drunk, and stupid. That's no way to go through life.
The Royals, if they're going to find any success today, it will, as it has been for most of the season, be because of the offense. They get to take on Lucas Giolito, who at one point in time was one of the top prospects in baseball, has been kind of up and down. A couple years ago, in fact, 3 years in a row, 19 through 21, he got Cy Young votes, was good in all of those years. Last year, kind of a down year. 4.90 ERA, just wasn't quite as sharp as he had been. His strikeout numbers were down. His strikeout numbers are down even further this year, averaging under 9 strikeouts per 9, but he has bounced back himself. ERA is down. Fielding independent pitching is down. He is above average in terms of the number of hard hits he allows. Exit velocity off the bat. Expected batting average. He's not walking dudes. I mean, he's been good this year. He's been their best pitcher this year because Cease has been a little bit down, even though we talked up Cease. I talked up Cease a bunch yesterday. The question is, can the Royals get to Giolito? And if you think the Royals can get to Lucas Giolito, then they're going to have a chance to compete in this game. If you think, no, they were too hot yesterday, you're not going to get 3 hits from Jackie Bradley Jr., 5 guys aren't going to end up with multiple hits in the game, they can't do it, well, then the White Sox are probably going to win like 6-1.
Want to play a quick game of who's better?
Oh, boy. Yes, actually, I do.
So I have the team stats in front of me for both the White Sox and the Royals, and I'm just talking about their offenses right now because we have noted fairly that the last 2 weeks have been pretty good offensively for the Royals. It is also fair to note that before that, it was in fact very, very bad for the Royals offensively. So thought I'd put this little game to you.
Okay.
Between the White Sox and the Royals, which team has a higher batting average?
The Royals.
That is incorrect. It is still the White Sox. They are hitting 240 as a team. The Royals are hitting 238. Which team do you think has a higher slugging percentage?
That one's got to be the Royals.
It is the Royals, a 390 team slugging percentage compared to a 389 slugging percentage.
Oh, that's closer than I thought.
For the White Sox. Which team has more home runs?
Oh, gross. Man, I moaned so much about the Royals not hitting home runs early in the season. I'll say, the White Sox.
It is the White Sox,
Yeah.
38-33. One more.
These are really close.
Yes, they are really close. One more. Which team has more walks?
Oh, my God. Is it the Royals?
It is a trick question. They are tied for last in the American League with 100 walks as a team.
Gross. Like, you've got to be embarrassed. I mean, I know White Sox fans are definitely embarrassed, but you've got to be a little embarrassed if you're the White Sox. Right?
Yeah, because it wasn't supposed to be this. Like, there was no foreseeing. Like, maybe you didn't think the White Sox were going to be any good, but there was no foreseeing winning 12 of your first 36.
Yeah, I mean, if they play, they're not going to play at that pace for the entirety of the season. If they were going to, they would win 54 games.
Let's play another game. Who's got a better team ERA?
Oh no. It's got to be the White Sox.
It is not the White Sox. The Royals have a better ERA than the White Sox. Probably last night threw that out of balance. The Royals have a team ERA of 5.62. That is 13th in the American League. The White Sox have a 5.70 team ERA. That is 14th in the American League.
Who's worse?
The A's.
Oh, yeah.
Theirs still looks like a Boeing model, I think, as a team.
So, I don't know if you know who Jay Kuda is.
Yeah, he does like those baseball graphs on Twitter.
Yeah, I don't really know where he came from, but he's a White Sox fan, I believe, and he does a bunch of graphics and graphs and stuff on Twitter to show various baseball statistics, some more useful than others. He did one, it's just a bunch of Venn diagrams, essentially, and it's teams in the top 10 in bullpen ERA, the top 10 in starting ERA, and then the bottom 10 and middle 10 and all that. The 5 teams that are in the bottom 10 in both starting and bullpen ERA. Can you name them without looking?
Bottom 10 in starter ERA and bullpen ERA?
Yeah, there's 5 of them.
There's 5 of them. The Royals and the White Sox and the A's would be 3.
That's 3.
I'm gonna say Yankees.
Not the Yankees. In fact, the Yankees have a top 10 bullpen ERA.
Cardinals have been pretty bad.
They are bottom 10 starting rotation, middle 10 bullpen ERA.
Washington, their pitching's pretty crummy.
Bottom 10 bullpen, but middle 10 starting rotation.
I said Royals, White Sox, A's, Rockies.
Yeah.
Their bullpen had been kind of good, so I didn't want to guess them right
away.
No,
fair.
But, I don't know who the 5th one would be.
The Philadelphia Phillies. How about that? Their pitching, not good.
Yeah, well, they started slow last year. We all know how that went.
By the way, the Phillies didn't play yesterday. They do play today. Somebody went on the radio and said something horrible. A really, really bad homophobic slur yesterday.
Bob Huggins.
I'm not saying you should bet on a Nick Castellanos home run prop. I'm just saying if there was ever a time to do one, it might be today. We all remember Tom Brenneman.
Nick Castellanos, he loves to interrupt inappropriate moments with home runs.
That is the funniest coincidence in all of sports.
It really is.
Tom Brenneman and then Ryan Lefevre giving a eulogy.
Then where they were like marking a special like memorial seat at Citizens Bank Park for like wounded veterans.
And he hit one there.
Parents of wounded veterans. It was something like that. Yeah, and he hit one during that.
And then people found out, they went back into the archives and found out that Nick Castellanos' first professional home run on his first game in the minors or whatever, it came on the day that Osama bin Laden was captured and killed.
Compromised to a permanent end.
Yeah. Nick Castellanos hit a home run that day. It is the funniest coincidence in all of sports. We've got to get to another timeout here on 580 Sports Talk. We've got more of the program coming up after this on 580 WIBW. We've got a comment from our pal, The Bard, on the YouTube comments feed. Find us on YouTube, Sports on 580 WIBW, in which he mentions that 1 year ago today, I love this callback, he had written a limerick for us about how bad Royals hitting was and their lack of hitting. And now, suddenly, things are turning around. A year to the day.
You know what else happened 1 year ago to the day? Was we made the announcement that we were going to expand the radio program.
Hey, how about that? I know May 16th.
Yes, May 16th, the 1 year anniversary of the actual expansion of the program. We'll have to note that in some way.
Oh, yeah, we'll do something.
A week from tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll celebrate that. Well, I don't know.
It's worth celebrating. You do radio with another person for a year and don't kill each other like that.
Yeah, that's true. Some radio shows cannot say that.
No.
That is certainly true. Yeah, man, it's been almost a whole year at this point.
Yeah.
How much has changed? Well, the Chiefs won another Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That was good.
K-State had their annus mirabilis in sports with the success of football and basketball.
Clearly, that was the missing piece for K-State, is that you weren't covering them for a while.
Obviously. Yeah, they just need me to show up to more games. Yeah, that was it all along.
And the Royals still stink.
Yeah, they do.
Although, now they've got guys who are actually like worth watching and seeing on a day-to-day basis. So that's nice. That's something. The pitching is still awful. There's really no forgiving that. By the way, your Royals lineup for tonight.
They got a Sunday lineup today.
Yeah,
it's
not great. It's not great. Witt leads off. Pasquantino second. Salvi's hitting third, DHing. Maikel Garcia is your second baseman. He's in the cleanup spot. Yes, you heard that right. MJ Melendez in right field hitting fifth. Dozier's in the sixth hole. Good God. He's at third base. Freddie Fermin is behind the plate. Jackie Bradley Jr. back in center field. And Nate Eaton in left tonight.
Nate Eaton 1 for 29 on the year now.
That's good. That's really great. 1 for 20. What percentage? What's that average?
That average, I'm pulling it up right now. That is a 0.34 average, which is also his on-base percentage and also his slugging percentage.
One single.
2 stolen bases.
Hey.
14 strikeouts, no walks.
Did he get hit by a pitch, or did he just steal 2 bases on that one single?
Yeah, he might have pinch ran.
Oh, that might have been it. Where do the Royals stack up in terms of stolen bases? Do you know?
They're 25 for 30 stealing bases, which is really efficient, but they're firmly in the middle of the pack in the American League. 7th in the league in stolen bases.
Wow, it is the new era. Even when they sucked, worse than now, Royals are just they're stealing all the time.
You're telling me you can't find roster space for Terrence Gore on this team?
I bet you he'd be willing to hop in.
Bring that back. Very strongly.
So far, have you been enjoying the increased running game?
It's a little too easy to steal now. I think I think I like the stolen base. It's an exciting play. It's fun to watch. Akil Baddoo got hit in the beans with a throw down to second.
Yeah, he did.
And he got tagged out. So, dude, insult to injury for Akil Baddoo. He went 0 for 4, but he still, it was Mike Zeno, the catcher, about whom could be fairly said he went 0 for 4 and hit a dong yesterday. So, yeah, there's a little bit more excitement in that. I like that the speed and stolen bases are back as a part of the game. But, yeah, the calculus is a little too far, I think, in favor of the base runners because they're able to time pitchers a lot easier, especially after the pitcher uses their disengagements. The base runner knows, okay, there's a time window in which something has to happen.
Yeah.
And if I time it right, yeah. So I'm not sure what the solution is for that other than to give unlimited disengagements and just let pitchers control the running game like they used to. I would be fine with that. If that tacked on 10 more minutes to the average game time and games were 245 instead of 235, I think we could live with that.
I think we could live with that too. I think you need to do something to reset the running balance.
You just got to give pitchers a chance. I don't think you're giving them a fair chance to limit the running game at this point. Which means you're not giving catchers a fair chance to do it. And, yeah, you're swinging the balance, I think, too far in favor of the base runner. Maybe that's an old man take. I got a lot of old man takes about baseball. It wouldn't be my first one.
No, I think that's entirely fair. By the way, I just ran the numbers for you. Last year, the Rangers led the major leagues in stolen bases. They had 128 for the entire season. They had 0.8 stolen bases a game. That led the majors. Right now, the Pirates, who, for what it's worth, are way up at anyone else, they have 9 more stolen bases than anyone. They also have 13 times caught stealing, which leads the majors. They are stealing 1.3 bases per game. That's a lot.
What's the success rate? 48 divided by 61?
Yes.
I'm opening the calculator app.
I got it for you here.
Nope, 79%.
Yeah.
Which the math, like the reason people stop stealing bases because the math says that if you're stealing bases anything less than like a 75 to 77% clip, then it's not worth it to do. So teams just kind of stopped doing it as a result. Now here's a team doing it at a 79% clip as a team. And other than Ji-Hwan Bae, which is not a name that casual baseball fan knows anything about, they don't have any like real speed merchants on this team. They're just stealing a lot of bases. They got 6 guys with 4 or more stolen bases.
That is, of all the things,
including Carlos Santana.
Yeah.
That one.
They're running.
That one. The same one. Royals fans. Yeah. The same guy. That guy.
If you see a Pirates game, they're going to be running a lot, and everyone is going to be running a lot. We have to get to one final timeout. We'll finish things off with the final word after this. We've got to wrap up 580 Sports Talk with a quick final word before Royals baseball, Dan.
I got to say, he's kind of been the forgotten man when it comes to talking about young Royals core position players. And there are reasons to be a little concerned that his fast start since being recalled is overinflated by a high batting average on balls in play and that his strikeout rate is still a bit concerning. But Nick Prado's hitting the ball hard, man. 15 of his first 42 since being called up. That's good for a 357 average and a 938 on base plus slugging. Starting to become a fixture in the lineup and starting to deliver on some of the promise that he had as a Royals prospect. Maybe it's time to start discussing him in the same way that we discuss Melendez and Witt and Pasquantino as a tentpole in this future Royals lineup.
I hope so. I really hope that is the case because it means a lot more entertaining Royals baseball in the near future. Final word for me is a real quick thought about KU basketball. We talked about it so much with Michael Swain of Fog.net earlier today for Jayhawk Weekly. If KU can end up landing Mackenzie Mbako, who is a top 10 prospect in the class of 2023, in a consensus 5-star recruit, in addition to adding one of the oldest players in the portal and one of the best shooters overall, another former 5-star prospect in Arterio Morris, and the consensus best player in the portal in Hunter Dickinson, I'm not sure that Bill Self has ever had a better offseason in terms of talent acquisition than the one KU could be putting together this offseason. That does it for 580 Sports Talk. We're back tomorrow from 3 until 6. Tim Fitzgerald is going to join us. We will recap more Royals baseball and so much more. Don't forget to check out the podcast at 580wibw.com. For Dan Lucero, I'm Brendan Dworzinski. We'll talk tomorrow at 3 on 580 Sports Talk.